I praise the Lord that everything that we do today is good for the county and good decisions are made. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. We'll have our first call out to the public. A member of the public may address the board after receiving recognition from the chairperson and giving his or her name. Public comment shall be limited to a period set aside at each meeting for such purpose, and each speaker shall have the floor for no longer than 5 minutes unless the board grants an extension. Board of Commissioner Rules of Procedures and Bylaws 5.13-3. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board at this time?
Thank you.
Come to the podium, please, and your name, please.
Angelica Ayala Beasley, and I have a property at 2781 Grant Drive and 2782 Grant Drive. It's two lots next to each other. They run alongside Bankers Road, and they are in between Grant Drive and Ginger Hill, and that's over by Carpenter Lake. There is, so just to kind of describe, Bankers Road sits to the south of my property and is elevated a little higher than my property. Grant Drive is on the west side of my property and sits also slightly elevated. There is a walkway easement to the north of my property, which sits lower, and then Ginger Hill behind me, which is elevated as well. Okay, so I have an issue with drainage on my property, so my property constantly floods, in the front yard mostly, and that's because I have nowhere to direct my water. So I've had to have my property drained twice last year. I'm in my, I believe my 4th year now of ownership, so I'm now discovering these things, even though that property has been there for a while. So I've come in and I've made some improvements. I added a sump pump to my property, added some gutters, cleaned it up quite a bit. I'm sure that those of you that may have driven by there in the past have seen the changes if you have. So I hired a civil engineer, and the civil engineer advised that I can petition the county to put in drainage in that walkway easement. That is on the plat, and it's not showing on my title work as far as my responsibility. So I'm here to petition to see how the county can help me eliminate that water that tends to sit on my property constantly. Over the spring and summer, the road commissioner did go out and do some work in the culvert that was completely buried and wasn't doing its job along Bankers. I don't know the engineering of these culverts, but most recently my handyman took a picture and water was basically just sitting there almost halfway above the opening of the culvert. It was just sitting there, so water's not moving. And then that water also tends to come onto my property as well, off the road, over from the culvert area, and because I sit down gradient from Bankers, I also get that water as well. So my front yard tends to stay saturated. So any amount of rain, it floods. So I don't know what the next steps are or how you can help me and what you can tell me what I can do next. But here I am. This is my issue, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Normally we don't engage, Angelica, but you're in Reading Township, correct?
Yes.
My district, if you would, take my card and call me later, and we'll try and see what we can get done for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So,
If I may, Commissioner, I would also advise her that while she's here, maybe stop downstairs at the drain commissioner's office. I'm not sure if there's a drainage district there in Carpenter Lake that he would have any work with.
He did come out to my property, and I spoke with Bob, the road commissioner, and
No.
I know, and I'm trying to remember his name, either Ryan or Brian, is the drain commissioner.
Big Matt.
Matt.
Oh, well then maybe, I can't remember exactly because it was over the summer and I spoke to so many people. Alan Andrews even came out to my property. So I've spoken to everybody pretty much, and you know, I'm not
give me a
getting, I'm
call.
not
We'll
getting
see
a lot
what
of
we can get.
answers or help.
We
That's
might be
why
able
I'm
to get
here
a site
today.
visit with, everybody concerned, so give me a call, I'll see what we can do.
Okay, thank
So-
you.
Can I get your last name too? I didn't catch your last
Sure,
name.
it's Ayala, A-Y-A-L-A, space
I'm
Beasley.
sorry, no, I got it here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ayala, A-Y-A-L-A, space Beasley, B-E-A-S-L-E-Y. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Doug, you wanted to?
Got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. All right. Bob, I know you're waiting. Come on up.
Thank you.
Your flashlight's on.
I know. I can't seem to figure out how these things work. So, I know, as I've said before, computer stuff is not my, whatever. Oh, I found it. It doesn't on there now.
There you go.
Lindsay corrected me one day, I believe. Hey, thank you for addressing her. That was commendable. I like that, addressing. We all want to find out things we don't know who to go to. So, thank you for that. I guess the only thing I'm here for today is, since I'm trying, I should say, really trying to get focused on the FOIA on which my place was busted into, and since we have Abe Dane here, again, I want to address the issue of getting the FOIA from the 911, the call that I had 4 state troopers, and yet I have no names. I have nothing that's been recorded, nothing on the scanner that was directed to Scotty Hotshire's office and wasn't put out. And again, my place was destroyed, broken into. Things were broken, I mean really broken. And yet, no arrest has been made. Yet I have them out there. They did take the gentleman in, and there's no response. I mean, it's kind of a bad thing to have, what we have as a sheriff and not getting any, kind of reasoning being done by him. I just felt that it was a need to come in here and address it openly here on the mic, that I'm asking for that FOIA for all the information, the tapings of 911, as well as the attendance of those that had been on there, and any recordings. So, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time? There will be another public comment towards the end of the meeting. Seeing no one, we will continue onward. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Correspondence is also listed in your packet. Is there any comments at this time on correspondence? Hearing none. Entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I would like to add under following the discussion of the medical examiner, a closed session to discuss an item of attorney-client privilege.
And with that, you're going to support
I'll support it.
one of you.
It's an amendment to it, so.
Yep. All right, anything else with the regular agenda? With the addition of that closed session under under Brad's report. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, moving right along here. I think Brian's not here yet, right? Doug?
I don't see him.
I
Okay.
thought I saw him walk in downstairs, so.
All right, he might be meeting with Randy. We'll fit him in as we go. So, I see Maggie and Dan and the gang's all here. So, and I gotta get back to you, Dan, on when I'm gonna pick up those subs. I made myself a note last night. I thought about it during a meeting last night.
So I did tell Dan that if he could get 2 Board of Commissioners to purchase subs, that I would put a big shiny gold star in his office for all to see. I think we got one.
You got one.
All right, so there's always next year, so just know that that's where it's going to. So, good morning. Maggie Monroe, Executive Director at the Hillsdale County Senior Services Center. Thank you for having me, and Mr. Collins, welcome to the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you.
So I want to start with our Thanksgiving appeal and our great give. Collectively, we were able to raise approximately $21,000, and that is dedicated to a new Meals on Wheels vehicle. So we are looking into that. It is a busy time of year for us. We have our audit, we have our annual board of director meeting and terms, and a lot going on. But we are actively pursuing that so we can add another vehicle, because we are serving more people and our routes have become so large. It's necessary to split those routes up and so we can better utilize volunteers. Our Thanksgiving dinner welcomed 268 guests, and our Christmas dinner welcomed 174. Thank you to everyone that participates in these events. It's truly a time that we, the staff at the center, truly enjoy. We did our 4th annual mitten tree, and together with the community collected 128 items for North Adams Jerome School to help keep the children warm. In collaboration with Dr. Pataki's office and Reading Methodist Church, we participated in our Angel Tree program and were able to help spread cheer to 114 Hillsdale County residents. Also, with the help of the community, we were able to collect 63 toys for Toys for Tots. We had our pictures with Santa, and that welcomes 29 families. Staff, clients, their family members, and kinship families were welcome, and I don't know if you saw any of the pictures on Facebook, but it was a great time. We continue to host our quarterly American Red Cross blood drives. So far in 2024, we've helped collect 82 units from 95 donors. Our average is 21 units per drive. We are having our next blood drive on April 23rd. You can register online. Thanks to volunteer Diana McCosh, we're able to offer our Valentine's Day Spa again this year. It'll be on February 13th from 9 to 4, a 1-hour session for back or foot. Amazing opportunity for us, and unfortunately I checked before I came today and all of the spots are full. So we had our senior breakfast. It was held September, October, November, and December, and collectively we served 117 clients, community members. Some of our guest speakers included CNB Financial Crimes Officer, DNR, our own Safe Plus coordinator, Mayor Beth Keltz, and local author Penny Neer. With that, we do have some new Safe Plus socialization day trips scheduled. We'll be welcoming Glass Apt Workshop on Thursday, January 30th. We'll be doing an Amish luncheon on Wednesday, February 5th, and Toasted Mud Ceramics on February 13th. So historically, the day trips, socialization trips have been very well received. They fill every time. So if you know of anyone that is interested or could benefit from our Safe program, please have them call us. I'm very excited to introduce our new evidence-based disease prevention program, which is our podiatry clinic. As you know, we are in need of local podiatrists and recently had a local podiatrist retire. So with Dr. White, We were able to open a quarterly foot clinic, and he provides clinical treatments such as toenail trimming, treating calluses, ingrown toenails, corns, bursitis, or painful joints. We had our first clinic on the 24th, and it filled. We were able to help 21 people at that first clinic and received many positive comments. Our bereavement support group and education class will resume on February 4th. This is a class that is held every Tuesday for 8 weeks at the center, and is an opportunity for people to gather who are experiencing grief, loss, separation, and help them with the bereavement process and ways of coping. We continue with the National Council on Aging Digital Literacy Initiative in collaboration with the Hillsdale Area Career Center students. They facilitate these workshops and on-site assistance. So we have on-site assistance every Wednesday from 1 to 2:30, and starting in January, in addition to those workshops, or in addition to the on-site assistance, we have monthly workshops. So the upcoming workshops are in February, March, and April. Internet safety, cybersecurity basics, and mobile device basics will be the topics. We do continue to collaborate with Wellwise Area Agency on Aging for Connection Cafe. That is held the third Wednesday of every month. We've had some poor attendance with that, so we're hoping to keep that going, but we'll have to see how the attendance is. Our adult daycare on-site respite is now a Veterans Administration service, approved service. Very exciting news, and we are accepting new clients. The adult daycare on-site respite is intended for those that are 18 and older, that it would be safer for them to have 24/7 supervision. The center, in benchmarking, has received quite a few nominations and awards this year, and so I just want to take a moment to reflect on those. The Fitness Center was awarded the 2024 Community Choice Award for Best Fitness Center. We were recognized by the 2024 Next Door Neighborhood Fave, which both are awards that are community driven and allow neighbors to celebrate in the success of the businesses that they love in our community. We also earned our Candid Platinum Seal of Transparency, so anyone that would like to can visit that so they can know that they're donating with trust and confidence. We also received a 98% 4-star rating with Charity Navigator, which is a free nonprofit resource that is utilized by many local and regional nonprofits. Again, so people can know that they're donating with trust or investing in trust. And excitingly, Center volunteer Maribel Knight was awarded the Michigan Association of Senior Centers Volunteer Partner of the Year. The center is extremely grateful for her 17 years of dedicated service to the volunteer transportation program, and she was formally acknowledged not only at our center board of director meeting, but also at the Michigan Association of Senior Centers annual conference. I receive testimonials often throughout the months, and so I've started including those in my reports. I won't read all of them for the sake of time, but I would like to read a couple. One says, "Thank you so much for your help. What wonderful services to seniors and disabled people. I look forward to each warm meal. When I first got home from the hospital, having someone come in and clean was wonderful because I couldn't do it. Thank you for all your services. I moved back to Michigan from Florida. I wanted to live in Hillsdale County because of your senior center. I never thought you would help me in these ways. Thank you again." And another says, "I'm reaching out to you because I'm looking to change jobs. I've had such wonderful experiences with everyone at Perennial Park and feel it would be a great place to work. Do you have any job openings, or can I place an application on file? Thank you for all you have done for me and my family." So in conclusion, I would just like to say thank you to all who support the center. I extend sincere gratitude, whether it be to staff, donors, volunteers, Board of Commissioners, our dedicated Board of Directors, for their steadfast dedication, because without all of you, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. Are there any questions?
Connection Cafe. Explain a little more about that, if you would.
Yeah, So Connection Cafe is it's a socialization opportunity. It's held the third Wednesday of every month. People gather at the center. There's a Wellwise staff member that facilitates that group, and each month is a different topic. So some months have been creating your bucket list. There's been presentations on fraud, abuse, and exploitation. There's just been days where they've met and did crafts together. So we've advertised that in our Golden Leaves. We also advertise it on Facebook and on WCSR. So we would really like to see some more participation with that. If transportation is an issue, please call us because we can help with that.
I guess also, it's too late to order a sub, right?
I think we can make it work. We'll make it work.
So to my fellow commissioners, I bought before, so I can attest they're very good subs. And they don't cheat on the size either, so, and it is a fundraiser, so.
Yes.
And Dan needs that gold star.
Maggie, again, thanks for the work that you guys do at the center, especially thanks to your Meals on Wheels drivers. You know, we've heard it said many times just how vital it is at times to, you know, you're not just delivering meals, but you're getting eyes on someone, you know, on a routine basis. I recently had a customer call our office who's still in a rehab facility after he spent 3 days on his kitchen floor, that he's not a Meals on Wheels recipient. He had fallen. It took that long for somebody to come and check on him. And so, you know, it's just, those seniors, it is vital to get eyes on people at times. You mentioned that there was a podiatrist that retired. What podiatrist was that?
Bidney.
Dr. Bidney
Okay.
is retired.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Who do you have with you? this
So
morning?
I'm glad you asked. I was just going to introduce. So you're familiar with Dan LaRue, our finance director. We also have Deputy Director Lisa Wheeler. And then sitting beside her is our Director of Nursing, Gretchen Burke. And I would really like to thank her for all of her hard work in getting that podiatry clinic up and running.
So that's in partnership with the hospital or with the podiatrist? So-
Podiatrist.
Okay, so as soon as Hillsdale gets another one?
Yep.
Okay.
And again, Commissioners, she mentioned the Connection Cafe. That is in coordination with Wellwise Area Agency on Aging as well. I know they provide a lot of the programs and direction for that.
Yes,
So,
they do. Yep.
And is there any more questions for Maggie? So now we get to hear from Dan. Thanks, Maggie.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Now, Maggie talked about all the fun stuff. I'll talk about the not so fun. I think it's fun, but anyways. So our audit is ongoing. We're near completion of it. Hopefully we'll be able to have it ready for our February board meeting, and the next time we come here I'll be able to present on that as well. But with that said, I'm going to present to you our December financials today instead of the quarter, because there's going to be a couple changes in between September and October due to the audit. So as I emailed to Abe and should be in your packages, our income statement for December. Our net revenues was about $250,000. Our program expenses was about $182,000. Our admin expenses about $50,000, leaving us with a net income of about $21,000. Now, talking about that $21,000, a lot of that is from the Great Give in our Thanksgiving appeal. Maggie mentioned that earlier, but we raised exactly $21,995.27 through that. Thank you to the community. Thank you all for that. That's going to allow us to be able to purchase another Meals on Wheels vehicle. So far this year, well, last year we did over 80,000 meals. This year we're on track to do over 100,000 meals. It's a big jump. The routes are getting bigger, and it's just becoming more important, as Mr. Leininger was talking about.
So we continually always try and find ways to increase that, increase the funding. We don't want anybody to go 3 days on the floor. So, we had a very successful bingo for January. It was our biggest one yet, with over 40 people in attendance. It's kind of surprising though, the state rep told us that January should be one of the slower months. So it was very exciting to see that and see that grow as well. So if anybody's interested, bingo is the first Thursday of every month. Any questions?
Questions? I guess you're off the hot seat there, Dan.
And if you are interested in subs to stag, let me know. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
I appreciate the text, Dan, unfortunately,
I understand.
You just need to spend some of that molding money. It's for a good cause.
And again, I know how well the senior center does at making some of their meals, so.
Thank you, yes. Today's Italian wedding soup, so I'm excited.
All
Thank
right.
you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We will jump back to Brian since he has.
Good morning.
Get our final report.
All right, Brian.
Thank you, sir.
We made it. First, I want to start off by saying thank you to the commissioners, the county, Randy, for the patience while we dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and made sure that this got done the right way one time. We didn't want to be up here an extra 6 months either, but we got it done. We got it done correctly, and hopefully y'all enjoy the work and see the quality of craftsmanship that went in. So really simple here. This is just a final balance sheet that, there you go, little final balance sheet. So I think all pay apps have been submitted.
Yep.
So financially we're good. Nothing changed over the last 4 or 5 meetings that we had. Like we promised, there would be no other expenses. And in the packet, the first page is, we had talked about doing a continual maintenance inspection. What we're suggesting is for the first 5 years, we come out once a year. We will fly the drone, go up in the tower, get in the roof and look for any new water leaks or any intrusions that we have. And if we identify any problems, then if they're covered under warranty, we'll send our guys up, obviously at no cost to you guys. If they're not, we'll address that with Randy, get a scope of work with the costs associated with it, and do that. I really think it's important for at least 3 of the first 5 years, if not all the first 5 years, that we really keep an eye on and make sure everything's settled the way it's supposed to. Moving after that, you might be able to go back to every 3 years or 5 years.
Yep.
To have us come up and do a little walk around and fly around. So, any questions on that?
The $4,000, Brian, is that for the 5 years, or is that?
It's $4,000 a year.
$4,000 per year?
Per year. And we'll come up, we'll fly the drone, we'll present you guys present the county with all the photos, as well as a detailed written report of what our findings were. Again, it's stay ahead of it, right? Let's not. After that, after the first 5, other than a weather event, we shouldn't see a lot of.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, other than normal wear and tear on the building, just kind of how it's been, where there shouldn't be nothing major going on regardless, as far as that goes.
So, the next 2 items are the actual warranties that are part of our contract. We separated it into building and tower, is that correct?
Yeah, so main building and tower, we separated them 2 because we got done with obviously the tower before the main building. So there's 2 warranty dates on there, both 5 years. One ends in November of 29, the other one January 30. Yep.
And basically, it covers anything we touched on the building.
Yep.
So it's a very inclusive, comprehensive warranty that is included in the cost of our original contract. There's no additional, it's not like an extended warranty for your car. And then the last drawings are the final edition of everything we touched on the building. Yes, sir.
Hold on. So one is the tower and one is the main building.
And I was a little confused because they're both saying roofing installer's warranty, and they're both dated on the same date on the back.
Except on the
Yeah, and
expiration date, right?
Yeah, I see that there.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And all this documentation along with our as-bills and stuff are gonna be sent electronically as well.
Randy has a copy of everything.
Yep, I will send, maintenance data and stuff like that to you after the fact, so, yep.
I tried to fly the drone yesterday and get some as-built, and it was
Windy.
so windy. I got in the parking lot, I'm like, oh, this isn't bad, and I turned around the corner by that elevator building and got knocked back about 6 feet, and I was okay, this might not be the best day. But I think it is our intent also to have a professional photographer come out in the spring, and anything we do with that, we'll make sure that the IP can be used for you guys as well, and we'll send those to you so that you can use them for any marketing or county-related events that you want to. So I might try to fly it again, but I don't have anything for you picture-wise today. The drawings, like I said, this is everything we touched. There's 4 pages showing exactly what and how we did. The code's pretty simple.
And the actual drawings themselves, the sketches are the masonry stuff that we touched. There's a note on the front of that has obviously the copper flashings, the roofing, and all that stuff that's also covered under warranty, so.
What to talk about, Brent?
Oh, the pipe came off. Gotcha.
Where's that?
It's on the tower from the flat roof to the upper. Yep, the clock. We'll take care of it, obviously. Yep.
So,
You show me later.
You can climb in the building again unsupervised.
Nope. Yeah, and anything like this, guys, if you see something that you have a question about ever, please send a photo out, just like this.
Call
Let me
us.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be out here within a week or two,
if not sooner.
if not sooner. I mean,
And I had a couple of employees ask me, and it wasn't in the scope of work, they had noticed that there's some mortar missing and some of this limestone on the courthouse, on the elevator addition portion, but that wasn't in the scope of work. So maybe something that as well that we need to make sure to.
Yeah, and we can look at that, and when we come out and look at it today.
Yeah, I'll look at it today. I'll look at it today and
But
see
that
what-
might just be
yeah.
something that the next time we come out, whether it's do a warranty repair or some other thing, that we just add it into that work order. So it's not, the building's new enough, it's not falling down, there's no structural integrity or liability on the county's part by letting that go for.
And
a
what
couple
we
months
did
or a
do
couple
too
years.
on the project, where we had scaffold, so we did not have scaffold necessarily on that whole elevator addition, of course. But what we did do is, before we took that scaffolding down, we went through the whole building, and any holes that we could visually see in the mortar, we did patch those up, so that obviously we're not gonna want, we don't want water to get in the building regardless if we touch that part of the building or not. So we did go through and try to get every, hole, I'll say, filled, just for the longevity of the project, building.
I was in the courthouse last Friday, and the bailiff had noticed some water on the floor in the second story in the rotunda. Did we figure out where that came from?
That was salt water, so it came off somebody's boots.
Okay. I was guessing that, but I wasn't sure because couldn't see anything else, so.
Okay.
You sure it wasn't one of the prosecutor's dogs?
They're not allowed.
Did I say that?
As long as it wasn't from the roof, it could be whatever you want to call it.
And again, I really appreciate you guys letting us work, all of the county letting us work on this project.
Yeah,
It's a very big
It's a
project.
signature piece for us,
Yes.
right? We're proud of it, I hope you guys are too.
And we do have that final invoice for payment, but I had asked the clerk's office to hold off on paying it until I could ask you about that picture.
Nope, that's fine, that's
That's good.
totally fair. Totally fair. Any other questions?
Brian, just a comment, I've had a number of comment, feedback from the public the building just looks fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah.
You really delivered the product that you said you would.
Good.
I'm very, very happy. Thank you.
That's good to hear. Like I said this when I first came up, it's an easy company to work for. It's an easy company to go sell when Jake and the crew are doing the work that they do, right? And the way they behave on the job site, you know, it's a really, I appreciate the kind words, and I'm proud to be part of it from my end of it, as I'm sure Jake is as well.
100%.
One other comment that
Yes,
I've had from some employees is they've seen some screws nails in the parking lot area, so maybe we need to do.
I'm gonna do one more once around today, and then I'll also be back in the spring, once the snow melts and stuff like that, to do another, you know, through the garden area and stuff like that, because obviously, you know, you're gonna have just construction debris from 2 years worth of work. I mean, it's gonna happen, so. Yeah, I'll go over it once more.
So it's called Hope or Spark. It's our, they work with young people that have developmental disabilities, and they have a photography class.
Okay.
And they presented, so it's on YouTube if you want to go back to last March. They did a presentation last March. I had them come in. There was probably 60 photos of the building, at least for that year, previous to March. And they're going to come in this March and kind of do pictures.
Fantastic.
And finish up with, you know, from where they left off last March to now, where there's no scaffolding.
Right.
Okay.
So,
But, and that's something we can probably put together too, is a progress catalog, if you will, just saying, hey, here's what it was before we started, and maybe do it every 6 months or every whenever,
Yeah.
you know, just kind of as the project phased through from start to finish, so.
yeah, it just gives you kind of a historical perspective of how it trends, you know. But,
Brett, did you ever get the old clock mechanism out?
Yes.
Yep,
It
it's
is
down in
now in
the-
possession of our historical society.
Oh, beautiful.
They're very, very thankful, and they had that on display for their December open house.
How'd you do that?
Thank you again.
I don't know. So, OSHA was not involved? Anybody else?
Doug,
Brian and Jake, I want to thank you as well. The project went, incredibly smooth with all the challenges that were brought, and the cooperation, working with the clerks and your crew and their efficiency, send that down the line.
Sure
We
will.
appreciate-
Absolutely. Thank you.
We appreciate your company, and it was as-built, and we appreciate Historic Renaissance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we did work Sundays.
yes,
Well,
they
they worked a
did.
variety of days to get this thing
When the
done.
weather was good, it's kind of like making hay. You make
Right,
hay
yeah,
in the
exactly,
sunshine.
exactly. Got that right. Yep.
And for the public that is here and those that are watching, we did approve one change order for an increase of $500,000 of work, of additional money over the initial.
That's awesome.
But the total cost for Renaissance was $504,600, which was what was agreed to many months ago. So there was no big.
And that's under the 10-8 that we have talked about.
We had set aside some, on the roofing, we had set aside some additional contingency monies. We ended up not using that there. We did also have the, I think, $260,000 for the windows. So, yes, we came in as budgeted, and
Thank you for
A
that.
little late on the schedule, but we got her done.
Deer hunting kind of interfered.
What was that? No,
I said deer hunting interfered there at one point.
Golf trips, yeah.
All right, any other questions for Brian or Jake? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks again, I really appreciate it.
okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
We look forward to the
Yeah,
flyover.
if you could get that fixed.
I'll
I said
go
we'll
look
look
at it today.
forward to
Yeah,
the
I
flyover.
can't fix it today. I'll.
You're gonna need a, yeah, 'cause-
Thank you. Verhagen. Verhagen, yeah.
Jake, thanks.
Thank you.
yeah, it looks like that.
Yep.
Where that was soldered together, it came apart.
Yeah, just,
Well, we'll be making some changes.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys.
All right. Put my glasses on. All right, moving right along here, we've got Lynn LaCroix. Is that correct?
Close.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lynn LaCourse. I think most of you probably are already familiar with me, but I am currently the interim executive director of Reading Emergency Unit. My main goal in being here today is, one, to fulfill my requirement of quarterly attendance, and two, just to kind of review numbers of 2024. Is there any questions you may have? It's all in your packet, I believe, but I would like to draw attention to the fact that our unable to handle calls were down 36 over 2023, which I'm very pleased with. We were up emergency calls as well. We were only down 1 transfer, and we're working with less staff, so that's pretty good as well. Our wheelchair van service was down a lot of calls. However, some of our regular customers unfortunately became ill and were no longer able to participate with their original organization. So our current staffing, we have 3 full-time paramedics and 1 casual paramedic at this time. That's down 1 from when I sent the packet in. I am also a paramedic. I'm not in that count, but I do work the road. We have 6 full-time EMTs. Also, our office manager is an EMT, is not in that count. 4 full-time advanced EMTs, and currently 10 casual EMTs. We are actively attempting to get more paramedics on board at all times. We have just brought on several more full-time EMTs as well. Response times have stayed pretty steady throughout the years here. Do you have any questions for me initially on these numbers? Or anything that I've presented from last year?
Just so I'm clear, Lynn.
Yes.
On your call volume comparison,
Yes.
it looks like you're down as far, and this is 24 compared to 23, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So pretty much all the categories you were down except emergency calls were up by 174?
Correct. The unable to handle and mutual aid represent, even though they're down, that represents fewer calls that we had to
Right.
help with. So
Well, unable to handle, that number being down is a good thing.
yes.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure I was clear on how I understood that.
Yes. Sorry.
To that, Lynn, I've asked with our new CAD system that will come online later this year,
Yes.
that we are able to generate reports at 911 for those as well, so.
That would be amazing because I have to go through these individually.
Yeah, so,
currently.
and you know, just, you know, from looking at it from the MFR side of the house
Right.
as well, it basically just creates documentation of whether or not a department is able to handle calls or not, so.
Right.
But Thomas is working on that, so we should be able to deliver that information to your agency.
Wonderful. That would make it a lot easier on me and everybody, I imagine, that's running the reports. So, any other questions initially?
Go ahead, Doug.
On your staffing levels, can you say again what you have full-time 3 paramedics?
Correct.
How many are you hoping for? And in each one, you know, how short are you as you go?
So, I ideally need a minimum of 5 full-time paramedics. That would be most ideal. Certainly would take more than that without any question. As you know, our goal is always, the end goal is always 3 full-time ALS trucks. Right now, if we can get to 2 full-time ALS trucks, we'd be very content right now. But the paramedic shortage is extremely rough. So,
Right, so that goes hand in hand with the number of employees, the equipment that you have, you know, you have equipment that's not being used because you're understaffed.
Correct.
If you're overstaffed, then you still,
Right.
can only use so many, so much. So 5 is your number that would.
5 would
Yeah,
make
yeah.
everything way easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 7 would be perfect, but 5 is my right now goal. If I could get 5 tomorrow, I'd be a lot more comfortable.
And casual staffing, paramedics?
Yes.
You have 2.
I have 1 now. 1 resigned since I sent this packet in. So, and then myself, which is not in these numbers, but
Right, so how many do you need on casual staffing?
I mean, that's always kind of a figure of what we have full-time, right? So if we have plenty of full-time paramedics, we need fewer casuals. But, I would love to have like 5 casual paramedics that can just jump in whenever, we need the hours, so.
In casual staffing, EMTs, you have 10 listed?
Yes.
And what's the number you like?
Casual staff, EMTs for casual staffing, 10 is fine. Right now, with our 6 full-time EMTs, we're in a pretty good position with EMTs, and they work as well with the AEMTs. And we have hired a couple more. So right now, EMT-wise, we are pretty well staffed. It's just getting the ALS providers in there to assist that we need. And our 4 AEMTs are doing an amazing job and really helping pick up where we need that ALS provider at. So
Thank you very much.
we are pleased there, but I would like to ask if you have any, oops, sorry.
How long are them 4 gonna be happy doing way more work than what they?
Well, that's what they've signed up for. I mean,
I
because it's
agree
the increased
with you
level
there,
of, so they're quite content at their current level of service. And they're not, while they are helping pick up the slack, so to speak, they aren't a full stand-in for a paramedic. So we can bill their calls ALS and they can do some ALS treatments, but we do still need more paramedics at the end of the day, just to take the stress off of the system in general. So
About how often are you manning Litchfield's station? I mean, I know you're down low, you're not.
I don't have a really conclusive number. I'll be working there tonight, for instance. At least, I would say 2 to 3 times a week we're getting Litchfield manned.
Okay.
So
Is that a 12, Lynn, or is that when you're manning that station? Is it a 12-hour?
it's whatever we can get, but it's usually
Understood. but-
it's typically 24.
Okay.
So
But then the sad part is they get called out to.
Right.
Different.
Right.
and the call
Because
is
there's only 2.
the call is never where you plan for it to be.
Exactly.
So-
And I mean, yeah, because
Yep.
I've known you guys to run from Litchfield
Yep.
to Reading or.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah, and I can, personally have experienced that running, I think that my personal record is about 54 minutes running priority
Okay.
from another county.
Mhm.
So, it's just the nature of EMS that everyone's in the ambulance on every corner. You can't afford to staff that level. And so you try to set up a status plan that works and
and
hope for the best.
best laid plans never quite work the way that you expect.
Glenn, refresh my memory because I'm drawing a blank on AEMT.
It's the advanced AEMT or limited ALS level. It's kind of the bridge between EMT and paramedic, or at this point with the current protocols, it's really paramedic light. AEMTs can start IVs, they can give a number of meds, they can work codes for most of the process. They're, as Brad can tell you, they're basically, we couldn't live without them right now. They are fantastic, and they are out there providing great care to the patients as a stopgap, or in many cases, they can fully handle the patient's needs. So,
And we really are lucky because, that is my license level, and I'm a really strong advocate for increasing the number of them. But there's only 300 of us in the entire state of
Yes.
Michigan.
having
So we have
4 is a large number.
Having 4 is a bunch.
Sure.
I was talking to some other people from other agencies, and they were shocked to hear that we have 4 in one spot.
Okay.
So that they are invaluable to our organization, very helpful. So
Good.
And I appreciate them when I'm on the fire side of the house when they're out on calls with us. So
Oh, yeah.
you've got good people there.
I love having them. They're fantastic.
Go ahead.
So the shortage on the full-time, in particular the ALS, how do you increase that number? You know, what are some strategies that might work? I mean, other agencies have intern-type programs and pay for schooling and create contracts of obligation after the schooling is complete. How is it you're moving forward to try and fill some of the those spots?
So we do that as well. We do have education contracts both for AEMTs and paramedics. I believe it's a 3-year contract at this time. If we pay for your schooling, you are dedicated to us for 3 years. We do currently have 2 employees that are in paramedic class. I don't believe any of them used the education contract. They had scholarships outside. But, so we do that as well. We are actively advertising for paramedics, and we get frequent applicants through Indeed especially, but it's very easy to click apply. And so we reach out to them and then maybe they never respond, or, you know, they don't want to come into the area. So we do absolutely jump on that. Anytime we get an application, we look into them and try to interview them right away. But there's just not a lot of them out there, and the paramedics that are out there, a lot of them are quite content where they're at, because when I first came into this field 15 years ago, you kind of had to have 2 jobs to have a living wage, and now there's as much overtime as you want pretty much available anywhere. So people are not moving through the system, they're not working outside of one agency, so it's very hard to capture what's out there. And right now we're basically just capturing people who are just coming out of school, which is fine. There's just not a lot of those either. So we definitely have the education contract. We actively advertise. We are trying to get out there with the schools and promote EMS, but it is a real challenge right now.
Well, we have sitting in the room a potential source of Michigan Work Southeast, so.
And I was just going to add that we a lot of times can pay for that kind of training, but the people coming in aren't interested in that kind of training.
And that is
the issue.
ultimately one of the problems, is that EMS is as a function of everywhere, basically, as a function of the way it is, there is not high pay rates. So if you're going to go into an allied health field or any of the medical fields, it probably behooves you more to become an LPN or to become a nurse, because the money's much better there. So we're constantly fighting that battle with getting people into EMS as well. You have to have kind of public service minded individuals going into schools to start with. So there's a lot of funding out there for people who want to take the classes. It's just getting the people to take the classes, so, and pass them.
And pass.
Yeah, that's the challenge. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead, Brent.
On those unable to handle calls,
Yes.
you said that number was down.
Correct.
Who, you know what other agencies handle those, and do you have mutual aid contracts with other agencies for your service, primary service area?
Yes. So we have mutual aid, well, we'll get there. We have mutual aid contracts with all of the surrounding agencies. I can't tell you individually which, that would have to go through and pull every single one. But Somerset, Hudson, and to some degree Life Care handled the majority of the unable to handle calls.
In your primary area, what is your primary area?
Oh, a quiz.
I don't know.
It's the
You actually got a
western,
map.
the western, it's the
Okay.
western, theoretically, the western half of Hillsdale County and
Pretty much everything
Ransom Township.
but,
Half the rest.
Yes. everything for the most part but Somerset and Moscow, Wheatland Township, and half of Ransom, basically, and Jefferson Township.
I got it there.
Okay. So,
West half.
I would like to ask if you have comment at this time on Hudson's decision to rescind their mutual aid contract with us.
You want to address that, Brent?
I believe that all the commissioners, they've been distributed information on that, Lynn, and that, I would assume in the relatively near future, we will have a position in that regard.
Okay.
But we have not taken action on it yet.
Okay.
So it is listed as a discussion topic under Brad's report, so
Okay.
if you can't stay, you can certainly tune in to YouTube,
Okay.
either live or later.
Yep.
So I would suspect we'll be getting to that sometime in the next hour and a half. All right, any other questions for Lynn? All right,
Good recruiting, Lynn.
Thank you guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. Moving right along.
I didn't know this.
Okay.
It's not half a ransom, it's half a van boy. Brett Walton covers all ransom for EMS, according to the
Stops
contract,
at 99.
not according to the map.
No, we would get reading, the split is for ALS, that's so
The primary service area for, on the map, Brett Walton is relevant.
Wright Walden, because we're a BLS agency, they have to have ALS unless they disregard them. So the dividing line is on 99, and Hudson EMS will provide ALS in the east half of Ransom Township, and Reading provides it in the west half.
All right, are we done with that discussion, gentlemen? Yep. For now? All right, moving along, Brett.
All right, so in the packet, and Derek put this, and of course put this out there for your notice and discussion, is with switching to a company for our workers' compensation coverage as opposed to being self-insured. They want us to implement many guidelines and policies that we need to follow on all work comp claims. This is a memo that the finance director put together on those work comp claims and sent out, I believe, to all the department heads and supervisors for their review. Also, there in the packet is a work comp claims kit that has documentation in it, a report from the supervisor, a report from the employee, and a report from any witness that saw that injury that needs to be filed on all of those work comp claims. The medical care facility also has information on this as well, and has, is updating their policies to make sure that it complies with the company that we're with on that workers' compensation. You'll notice also in there, one of the key things to reducing work comp expenses is, if possible, getting that employee back to work, even in a limited capacity as much as possible, on a limited work restriction. And so just some guidelines here and directions on that. Also, you'll notice that it's designating the finance director and myself as individuals to be notified on those when there is a claim. Primarily part of that is to make sure that we get the form completed and submitted to the carrier in proper time. If that form is not submitted, the employer is potentially liable with a fine from the state of Michigan. In addition to that, if it's a severe enough injury, there has to be additional notice sent to OSHA regarding that injury as well. So wanted everybody at the commissioner level to see that, and didn't know if anybody had any questions regarding that.
Well, go ahead, Doug.
So my question is, are you stating in point one that the employee must notify 3 people, the supervisor, Derek, and Brent, Commissioner Leininger, or is it that the injury is reported to the supervisor and then move forward to Derek and Commissioner?
The employee is to notify their supervisor, and then the supervisor notifies Derek and myself of that.
Thank you.
Commissioner, is there a threshold, or is that for any?
Any
or
claim, any injury.
Okay.
Even if it's a twisted ankle or whatever. I
And,
mean,
you know,
it's all
we had an
gotta be-
employee fall on the sidewalk going to their vehicle last week. I don't believe if there was any medical bills out of it, I'm not sure or not. No missed time work, but still did the documentation reporting that incident.
So we currently have an employee that, so far, I guess the process has worked pretty well.
Yes.
The individual works, or will be working at 911, was on his way to training, was involved in a car accident, and was injured. And so since he was on his way to training, technically he was on the job. And from what Thomas has shared with us, it's working very well. So, but you had a comment, Doug?
Not yet.
Okay. I have one more comment. Last week, medical care meeting, Terry reported that he met with a representative from West Bend on January 14th for loss control survey and preparation of changing carriers. Patrick Kelly, who is with West Bend, provided the facility with education, safety materials, including videos and print resources to aid in our safety education. So he was, at the meeting, he spoke very highly of Patrick Kelly and what he was able to bring, to the table.
And again, a lot of that, said loss control. What can we do? Understand that there are going to be claims, but what can we do to mitigate that exposure and that claim cost as much as possible?
Right.
So my question is regarding providing this information to employees, will that go through the department heads? How, part of what I'm hearing is better training of, the process for employees is what's going to help make it run smoother. How does that information go on down the line?
I believe it's been posted on the message of the day as well, and each department head should clarify to their employees, if you're injured, you need to report it. Don't go home, report it.
And as for medical care, this is, they've got a much larger group of employees. There's a 24/7 operation, so they're working through the process of how do they, get the word out to each shift.
And
but-
updating their own internal policies, even
Correct.
regarding,
Correct.
limited work capabilities. If somebody's injured, can they come back, limited work restrictions, so that wage loss payment would be less.
And their previous policy tried to work, and to some extent did work with people coming back on limited assignment, based on what the doctor said they could or could not do, so.
So moving forward, do we need to make some adjustments to our employee handbook as well to incorporate some of the processes?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that needs to be updated in the employee handbook, Commissioner, but I will double check that.
Brent has graciously taken this on since work comp has, used to be handled by Bambi, and Nick did not want to touch this
Yeah.
going forward, which is fine.
And primarily it's Derek, but right, working with him and just one of those things, we received notice from the state of Michigan yesterday regarding a form that had been filed in the past because we were a self-insurer. When you switch to an insurance company, the company sends notice to the state of Michigan Bureau of Workers' Compensation that this company, that this employer has their insurance with this company. I asked Eric to reach out to West Bend, make sure that we have that form, make sure that it's been filed with the state, but just also a follow-up with something that we may still have to file some type of form with the State of Michigan Unemployment Bureau for those open claims that we still have an exposure for underneath our self-insurance for the prior to January 1st of this year.
Because we will continue to be responsible for
We are continually responsible for them.
And from the department head meeting, Nick actually made a comment about checking that personnel handbook, so if you would
We will
follow
do
up
that,
on
yeah.
that. Doug?
So another question is regarding new employees, as part of the onboarding process, having an understanding of what an entry report cycle and procedure is.
Yeah. And I know that I would have to pull that employee handbook up. I believe there's something in there regarding injuries, but just stressing that it needs to be reported immediately.
Commissioner, as part of our risk reduction, are we going to incorporate some form of a physical, and has there been discussion about adding drug testing as part of the onboarding process? I know for some of our employees we do because there are more sensitive areas. Others we do not.
It was, in regards to work comp, that was not discussed.
Okay.
I will tell you, working through this, one of the issues that we're requiring or that we had to do is set up an arrangement with a medical provider to be that first source of, for when an employee is injured, this is where you go to get checked out. And that arrangement is with Hillsdale Hospital on that. So we would need a medical report from the hospital. And I believe we're going to require drug testing on every injury that is reported and screened there at the hospital.
So you believe, is that part of the process?
That is part of the arrangement with the hospital. Somebody comes in on a Hillsdale County work comp claim that there needs to be a drug test done.
Now, one thing I was going to mention, during this discussion is, I think we need to get either a memorandum of understanding or a letter of understanding.
I know Derek and Mr. Hodshire have been working towards that.
Okay. I knew Derek and I had also talked about that.
We also include 911 on that discussion because they are a collective bargaining unit as well.
Yes.
Stephanie?
So I need some clarification because of this last injury that was last week.
Right.
I put on notice that it might have to go to MMRMA. Am I going to have to send one of those to MMRMA?
Well, and again, there's a question whether it's work comp or property liability because it was a slip and fall while the employee was returning to their vehicle to go to lunch. The work comp carrier after consultation said that they would cover that underneath work comp, so it wouldn't need to go to MMRMA.
Which I did send it yesterday, just in case. So I was under my timeline because I had 10 days.
Right.
So.
But can somebody
But there
clarify
are.
that, if I have to send them or not?
Right. There are some issues like that where just that clarification as to where it goes, whether it's work comp or if it's property liability coverage.
And some of it's just a learning curve because this is brand new for us.
Right, and I don't want to bombard them unnecessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Notices, basically.
Okay. Anything else on that at this time? All right.
All right.
Keep going.
On the 15th, is that right? January 15th. At 1:15, there was a conference call, and the report from our bond counsel and financial advisors, we were able to sell the bond for the 800 megahertz radio system. Key Bank Capital Markets of Cleveland, Ohio was the lowest bidder on that. The combined interest over the length of that bond was 3.445491%. I believe we're closing on that this week, Stephanie, and we should have those proceeds, I think, on Thursday. Just one thing that came up during that sale is because of the terms in the millage language that was passed, the bonds cannot be open more than 10 years, so we'll likely have to have that paid off in 2034, is that right? 35. Yeah, the date, so, but we should be receiving those payment, or that money on the bond this week, so.
There's a lot of process to this bond this time. Different criteria we have to follow as far as investing until it's used. I'm going to get some more clarification on that from the bond attorney and the financial advisor. But, nothing I've ever worked with like that before, so.
In addition, because there will be additional financial reporting that we have to do every year on this bond. We have actually talked to the
Financial advisor.
yeah, the financial advisor about his firm doing that for us. They were cheaper to do it than the auditor was, so we'll continue to do that.
And I met with County National Bank yesterday. They're getting it all worked out there for the accounts that we have to have.
This will be a separate account. I do know that.
Actually, 3 separate accounts.
Okay. We have received the next invoice from Motorola because they had the kickoff meeting on the
22nd, I believe.
Was it 22nd or 21st?
Yeah, I've got it in my report. Yes, it was last Tuesday, a week ago.
21st. And with that, Thomas has forwarded that invoice to Stephanie, but that invoice I don't believe is due until March.
45 days.
45 days. There was a question raised as to who will be reviewing and signing off on those invoices in the future, namely for consideration of payment. And I would move to authorize Thomas Whitaker, 911 Director, to review those payments and submit to the Treasurer's Office. We'll then submit to the Clerk's Office for payment to Motorola.
I'll support that.
Could you please repeat that?
That's moved to authorize Thomas Whitaker, 911 Director, to review the invoices from Motorola for payment for the construction of the 800 megahertz system and submit through the appropriate channels for payment.
And then through our normal process, then you would again, or you
Right.
or the vice chair of the committee, before the check
Right.
run was done, you would
Review
have eyes
those,
on those
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and I asked Stephanie to make sure that we're set up to make those payments to Motorola by an ACH transaction as opposed to a check, because if you go back and look at the bid from Motorola, we've paid them 5% of the cost already. This invoice is another 5%. MS, Thomas is waiting. We have 75% payment due when the equipment is shipped. And that is not defined, that's not defined real well as to what equipment, if it's all the equipment or just part of the equipment. So we can get some direction on that, so Stephanie knows just how long that money is going to be, a good share of that money is going to be sitting in that account as well.
Well, on the current invoice, we've got 45 days, correct?
All of those invoices, from the date of the invoice, will have 45 days. But that was
To include the equipment
to include
shipping?
the equipment shipment.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Because you said payment was due when it was shipped. I just
Well,
wanted to clarify.
the invoice produces when it's shipped.
Yeah,
And just getting some clarification is that the radios, is that the towers, what are we talking about there when are they shipping everything at once? But yeah.
well, that's easy. If they only ship 25%, then we pay 25. Doug, go ahead.
So on the bond, a couple of points. One, the,
Point of order, we have a motion on the floor, sir.
well,
Well,
no,
you're not germane to, okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion?
Did someone second that?
Brad?
yes.
Yeah. All right, we'll vote on the motion. Let's do it by roll call, please.
Commissioner Ingles?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley?
Yes?
Commissioner Benzing?
Yes.
Commissioner Leininger?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0, I believe. All right, please continue.
I believe Commissioner Ingles had a question on the bond.
I do, yeah.
Thank
So
you.
on the bond, the principal amount to be borrowed is $14,655,000. The interest on that is $4,389,222.92, bringing the total principal and interest to $19,044,222.92. And the term of the bond and the repayment schedule shows the last payment is, or the total is as of 12/31 of 2034.
Right. There's also a premium payment in there, Commissioner. So we actually will net just under the $16 million on that. And that premium calculation, you would have to talk to Andy, I believe, for a complete rundown, but it's because of the early payment, because of having to have that paid off in 10 years.
Right.
Okay. Anything
Any
else
more
on that?
questions on that at this time?
All right, keep her moving.
I did talk to Director Whitaker this morning. Consumers Energy has been contacted to start the process of getting electrical service to each of those locations where those towers will be located. The Finance Department is working with ADP in that transition process of getting our payroll over to the ADP system. Is maybe taking a little longer than what Derek had initially hoped for. Part of that is because they're going through and doing a bunch of account cleanup. They're wanting to make sure that there's no unused accounts being created and opened in that ADP system. And it sounds like the old BSNA system, there were several old ledger accounts that are no longer being used, but we're still in there for the payroll system. So wanting to get that done as we proceed. Still hoping for an April 1st startup date on that ADP system there. He had a kickoff meeting with ClearGov, which is this company that we're using for the budgeting software. They're going to start the process by building a historical data on that budget. That historical budget will start with at least 4 years of historical data on our budgeting here at the county. And that is progressing there. W-2s have been produced and either delivered to employees in person or sent in the mail to employees for the 2024 calendar year. He's still waiting to finish the 1099, as he's still waiting for an EIN from one vendor that we didn't have. So hopefully that process with some of that we get cleared up so that we make sure we get that information before we issue payments to individuals. So we've got that to be able to complete that W-1099 in a timely manner. Worldwide Services is progressing with our search for a new CEO. Had committee and board meeting last week, and the personnel committee, who is tasked with finding the candidates for the board, met yesterday, worked on updating the job description and the job posting for that, and hope to have that posted and out this week, and hope to have a individual found and hired before the end of March, with Julie leaving April 30th. So had a Board of Health meeting last week, but I'm going to let Commissioner Collins update on that. I do want to thank the treasurer for the report in our agenda as far as the communication there on the investment report for the fourth quarter and money market and savings account report. So thank you for that information. I will say that in that bond process, one of the questions was asked, is information provided as far as those investments and data, and that was one of those things that we could point to that the Treasurer's Office does on a quarterly basis update us on those investments and assets. So that is my report for today.
Any questions for Brent? Seeing none. Doug, I believe you're up next.
Thank you. I'll begin with my action item, Resolution 25-023, January 28, 2025. To Honorable Board of Commissioners, we authorize Randy Finley, Facilities Director, to hire an architect for the remodel of the Lifeways building not to exceed $50,000 to be paid out of the annex sale proceeds, account number 404-00-00-802.000. Furthermore, please amend the budget of the annex sale proceeds fund by increasing the budget for account 404-00-802.000 by $50,000. Respectfully submitted, and so moved, Commissioner Doug Ingles.
Support.
Moved and supported. Discussion?
So ultimately, the reason for this is to try and find out what the cost of the project is going to be. We have the conceptual drawing that was provided by Nathan Hall from the National Center State Courts. This is a conceptual drawing that does not have estimates for costs. The way to determine what the cost of potentially the project is to engage an architect and an engineer who could be the same person. However, that being said, the desire is to find out what the project is going to cost, and this is the mechanism by which to accomplish that. We don't know the dollars. We need to know the dollars of what we're talking about, and the way to find that out is to hire an architect for the remodel of the Lifeways building. There's a not to exceed of $50,000 that is an amount that is not expected to be reached. It's expected to be under that number of $50,000. The reason for 50 is to make sure that we have enough allocated for hiring the architect, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yes, Commissioner, my first question is, why aren't we doing this underneath an RFP process? Why aren't we doing a request for proposal on that?
The specific answer to that is that it's professional service, and there will be architects contacted, not a particular architect that will be sought out. We have to determine who has time. Not everybody is going to be available. We don't know that answer, and so there will be multiple phone calls made. And so as a professional service, the straight answer is that's not required.
Auditing is a professional service, but yet our finance department still goes through the RFP process.
Yes.
I believe many other times we've gone through an RFP process, and I would much rather see this be authorization for an RFP for architectural services for the building at 25 Fair Drive. Additionally, this document here is dated June 25th, 2024. I believe Nathan and National Center for State Courts also did other reports for us, and we had other documentation, not just the drawing. Today is January 28th, 2025, but yet this is the first time I'm seeing this. And I haven't seen the report that we paid $10,000 for National Center for State Courts to do in 2024. And so I would move to amend the resolution and strike the authorization for the facility director to contract for a architect and change to authorize the facility director to undergo a RFP process for architectural services at 25 Care Drive.
Could you repeat that, please?
Strike the language as written and insert authorize the facility director to undergo a RFP process for architectural services for 25 Care Drive.
RFP for what was that?
Architectural services.
Thank you.
I'll support that so we can discuss it. So we have an amendment on the floor, discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just ask Mr. Finley to come up and give us a 30,000-foot view of why his thoughts were in regards to just authorizing him versus going out for an RFP. I think that's valuable information.
Randy, come to the podium, please.
Well, the intent of this resolution is to get the board to give us a direction. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. Now, as far as the process goes, I prefer inviting different architects because I have greater control over who we work with. Sometimes we get, the problem that we have right now is that when we send it out, we're not getting much back. So you virtually have to call them and ask them and see if they're interested in bid and go from there. We don't take the first one or the second one. We take as many as we can get, and then I bring it to you and you guys make a decision. But as far as setting it out for bid and that sort of thing, the result on the last time around is we didn't get anybody. So that's kind of the reason why we're going the direction we're going.
The amendment would allow you to still seek the, but underneath the RFP process, and it still comes back to us for final approval, which is a change underneath the resolution without the amendment, that it just authorized the facility director to enter into a contract of up to $50,000.
I would still bring it to you.
That it's not required as in the resolution.
I understand that, but I would still bring it to you for you guys to make the decision. I would make the recommendation and you guys make a decision from that point on.
I think the amendment, should it pass, still would, I mean, the board would still be giving you direction. And as you indicated, that was really part of the intent here, was providing you and facilities with direction.
Correct.
So the amendment still accomplishes that. So I guess that, I mean, that's my comment. So.
Brandon, how many firms do you anticipate that are out there that we might
I'm
get?
sorry, say that again?
How many firms do you anticipate are out there that would give us proposals?
Maybe 4, maybe 5 tops. And that's if you were really working at it, we'd have to go probably 20 to get 3 or 4.
Go ahead, Kevin.
So basically, it wouldn't change anything in the way that you would do it, doing the amendment.
Outside of
Other
the
than-
sealed bid part of it, that's basically what we're doing, as opposed to being a sealed bid and waiting to see what we get, and then if we don't get what we need or want, then we start over again. This by doing it by invitation, which I prefer to do and have done in the past, is I get a better result that way. And I also get firms that I can believe in. Some of them we get a bid from, I can't go with.
No,
That's
but I
a-
guess could you still go by invitation under this motion?
No, if you go, yes, under this motion, it's still a total invitation type thing, and
A request for proposal, you can send that request, blanket request, or you can make sure that it gets directed to certain people that you want. Send us a proposal on this.
So I'm not sure how it's changing from the original motion.
The original motion authorizes him to contract for 50,000. This says, go through the RFP process, which requires then those numbers to be brought back to us for final approval, which is what we just did last year with the auditing service. And, you know, the finance director looked at those, made the recommendation. I believe we had 3 or 4 bids on that auditing service. We went with this firm.
even if you go with this particular resolution, no matter what, it's coming back to you for approval. I'm not going to make that approval, you are.
And that would be because of the number of dollars.
Absolutely.
And I mean, much like what Brent just outlaid with the audit, you know, Derek gave us his opinion, and Randy will give us his opinion on the bids that he receives as far as architectural services. So
The biggest difference with me being able to contact different ones, I hit the specific ones that I'm accustomed to, or I know of, or they have the reputation of. With a blanket bid, you may get 2 or 3 of them that are really low, but you have no idea really what they do and what they are.
Well, an RFP does not restrict you
Right.
from sending it to specific ones.
No, nor does the RFP require that we take the lowest bid.
Correct.
Are we saying a sealed bid, or we're just taking lowest bid?
We have in our procurement policy the RFP process, and I would have to go and review that, sir, to see on that.
You're gonna look for that now, Brent?
I think I've got that saved on my
If you don't mind, I'm gonna take
Yes.
Brad's comment while you're looking for that, because didn't you have your hand up?
No, I was just going to ask, and I think it's already been answered, that are we limiting Randy to strictly publishing this, or are we allowing his discretion to either publish for everyone or directing to? And since we're not giving direction, my thought would be we're allowing him to use his discretion on how he wants to distribute those requests for proposal.
That's my understanding.
So that should help you, Randy, and satisfy what Commissioner Leininger is asking for. You still have that oversight, that ability of, you know, targeting whichever firms that you feel would best serve the needs of the county, and then we in turn can review those proposals when they come back in and then make a decision as to which firm to go with, based on your recommendation, much as Derek provided.
Yeah, either way, you guys are going to have the decision, not me.
So, you're not, I mean, you send this RFP to half a dozen or 10 or whatever the number is that you feel are worthy of us looking at, or them looking at it, however you want to phrase it.
Correct.
You're not just staying in county, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because I know there's at least a couple in the Jackson area that would be
Absolutely.
worthy and, okay.
Absolutely, and
I would say-
there's no way I can fulfill what we need to do by staying within the county. In order to get the best options, we have to contact ones outside, ones that I've worked with before. There's one in Coldwater that we hired before, who's excellent. There's different ones that I want to make sure that
Get eyes on.
they're part of the process.
Sure, sure.
And yeah, there was a architect in Coldwater that helped Jefferson, or Pittsford Township with the architectural drawings on their Township Hall addition here. Very reasonable cost on that architectural.
Okay. Did you find what you were looking for?
I've got to take a little bit of time to read it, sir, but yeah, nothing says that it has to just be, you know, put out on the government website for an RFP, but you can still direct it to, you know, to those entities, but you may get if you put it out as an RFP, you may get a bid from somebody you didn't think of, and that may be the firm that we go with because of cost or other things involved, so.
But I think Randy's question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were questioning sealed bid or not sealed bid.
Correct. RFP, I don't believe requires that it be sealed.
Okay.
Then more or less it's like a resolution, except I'm bringing it to you. It's not stated in the resolution, but either way I'm bringing it to you.
But again, here, through the RFP process.
Yep. All right, any other discussion on the amendment to the resolution? Basically, the rewrite of the resolution.
Can we read the,
Sure.
what the resolution will be?
The amendment?
Motion to amend Resolution 25-023 by striking, we authorize Randy Finley, Facilities Director, to hire an architect for the remodel of the Lifeways building not to exceed $50,000, and insert, we authorize the Facilities Director to undergo an RFP process for architectural services of the current Lifeways building. So basically just that first sentence.
Specify 25 Care Drive, please.
Okay.
And are we also striking the second paragraph?
Yes, the second paragraph was to be struck.
Thank you. And my point to that is then we are not putting a dollar amount in that, so that way then, even though it's been discussed here publicly, that, you know, at least with consideration that we would spend up to that amount, that way there's no dollar amount involved in what we were doing, so.
Basically what the dollar amount was is to kind of get you commissioners to see about where we're going to end up at in the 40s, 50s, somewhere in that area there. So there's no sticker shock.
Yeah. I think you believe it's a sticker shock at this point.
So, did you, I think, you took out Lifeways and put in 25 Care Drive?
I just added 25 Care Drive.
Okay, you just added.
And
okay.
I changed it to striking the language in both paragraphs and inserting what I said, plus 25 Care Drive.
Okay. Yeah, because that was something that I know Brent and I talked about the other day. I mean, we know it's the Lifeways building now, but it is 25 Care Drive, and we need to kind of keep that in context.
Right.
So, all right.
I would like to ask Facilities Director, does a amended motion accomplish for you what you need?
Yes, it will.
All right. Any further comments? Roll call on the new resolution, basically, but it's the amendment.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Benson,
Yes.
Commissioner Leininger,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingalls.
Yes.
All right. Now, we just need to do a vote on 25-023 as amended.
Yep.
So we'll run through the vote again, please.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Benson,
Yes.
Commissioner Leininger,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingalls,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
All right, it passes 5-0. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. All right. Doug, please continue.
So some of the meetings I've had, Hillsdale Township, they did talk about the road commission contracts, and of those two commissioners, the township agreement this year has been amended, and the townships will pay 100% of the material costs. The road commission will pay 100% of the labor and equipment costs. That's a little different than it's been historically. It's more equitable based on materials used. Sometimes it will save the township a little bit of money, sometimes it will cost them a little bit more. Comparatively, gravel is less expensive than limestone. That's a specific example. We did have a meeting between Judge Stiverson, Laura Ray, Commissioner Benzine, and Commissioner Ingalls regarding the movement of and clearing out of the upstairs of the annex and the relocating of those employees that are up there. That will begin soon. The end result likely is the old building inspection space in the annex itself. We have a certain timeline to work with. If you recall, the agreement of the lease with Hillsdale Renaissance began on April 28 of 2023. To remember that the first 3 years, the county could occupy the whole building. The remaining time, which is 2 years, 6 months, Hillsdale County occupies first floor only. So the upstairs must be vacated by April 28 of 2026. The prep and the process is beginning to accomplish that. Of interest, I attended the Hillsdale City meeting that was held at the library on the road diet. That is something that's encouraged through TIFA. Initially, they did a study of the traffic and how to make the city more friendly roadwise for pedestrians. The traffic study concluded that road diet will reduce crashes and that it will improve the bicycle lanes and the pedestrian traffic. There was probably 100 people in attendance at that meeting, and there certainly were different opinions provided. I'm not sure whether the MDOT proposal that was discussed will be the end result. I think they're going to massage it a little bit since our courthouse is right in the middle of the traffic flow. We do have a little interest in how the traffic and pedestrian traffic proceeds, and I've spoken with Alan Beaker, who is the Planning Commission Administrator, and also the City Manager regarding some of the concerns that we have as a county in particular. Parking along the street is an issue. Currently with 4 lanes cars run into, there's not a lot of room. And so if there's a way to improve the spacing for parking, that would be an improvement for the county. Also, the pedestrian traffic, not only along Broad Street, but along Howell and Bacon as well. If there are some ways to address the timing of the lights so that people have more time to walk across the street, it may be part of what their discussion is. And so I bring that to you because these are some of the items that we're talking about at the road diet. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can about how some of those comments went with the road diet.
With the road diet, are they talking changing it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes?
Yeah.
And putting in a bike path?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, that's what I'm
4
getting
lanes
at.
to 3 lanes with 2
With a
lanes
turn
of
lane, yep.
traffic and a turn lane. And the proposal as presented was from Carlton to Steenberg. So it would take the full strip of Broad Street. Part of the compromise could be from Carlton to Bacon, as opposed to going throughout the length of Broad Street to the city limits. How that ends up is to determine, and that the representatives there said that they would try and take it back to their engineers and rework it in a fashion. The trick of the whole program process is the timeline for the grant. The grant which they're using, which they call a TAP grant. I'm not sure what TAP stands for, but they talked about TAP grant, was the end of February. And the timeline process to make all of that happen, I think is too short. So we'll see how it works out. But the TAP grant, as much as anything else, is driving this program.
And Commissioner, I couldn't make that meeting, I had a conflict meeting and stuff that night, but I will reach out to the Hillsdale transportation staff as a business owner downtown. I think there's other things that they can do to improve pedestrian safety, as opposed to just narrowing the street down to one lane in each direction.
And some of those ideas were discussed, timing on traffic lights, reworking some of that road.
Well, I would say you don't need to rework the roadway, you need to enforce the current road laws.
Yeah, so between the city hall and the post office, there's a redesign for some of that.
And I would say some of that redesign, their engineers have never driven a truck that needs those roads the way they are now.
Yeah.
So
that as well was part of the conversation. I'm sure your input would be appreciated. So City Manager Mackey and Alan Leaker are the go-tos right now on that.
So, a lot of cities have loops, so we need 499 as a bypass.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about that in the past.
I know, but
And I think
Down
that
South
was brought
Street.
up as well. So stay tuned. I guess it's, pretty much the,
all right. Please
you know,
continue.
and again, I say this as an individual who has business located in downtown Hillsdale. There are some issues there with traffic, some things that need to be addressed, but also, we talked about the annex building that we sold to Renaissance, Hillsdale Renaissance, and I know that entity has purchased a bunch of other downtown properties in the city of Hillsdale, and I think they're now working on putting together their tax credit plans and things like that to start some of that work. And we want that work, and we want those businesses that they're going to bring to downtown Hillsdale. So we want to make sure that it is business friendly and pedestrian friendly, but something that we don't have any direct say over it either.
right, we're county, not city. They're an intergovernmental unit that we try and cooperate with, but we are the heart of the city downtown in a big fashion, which is ultimately why we spent some money on the building that we did, So we want to, try and be part of the process if we can, have input. And as a business owner, you have other vision too. Besides sitting here, you have first-hand experience because that is, 30 feet from your front door or less. Right?
Yeah, less, I think.
Well, to that point, I've parked in front of his place, I've parked out in front of east of the
Yeah.
courthouse,
Yeah.
and I've, quite frankly, I've never had any trouble getting in and out of my vehicle, and, you gotta pay attention.
You got to watch the lights before
Well,
you
yeah.
open your door.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
that's what your mirrors are for.
yeah,
I did have one of my mirrors removed parked on the east side of the courthouse
Well-
also.
yeah, so,
That happens. I've seen that happen a few times. I would say some of those times, the vehicle that happened to was maybe, not legally parked because they were too far away from the curb.
It's 12 inches.
So, to kind of shift a little bit though, Brent mentioned, the annex and that entity, and has there been any discussion of maybe making, what is that, McCollum? Making that one way with diagonal parking like they did to the north end of Howell?
The city has not talked about that. County commissioners have brought that to them a couple of times, and how to, restructure and redo how McCollum looks. but they have not moved on any of that, and so I do not anticipate that as being part of their discussion.
Current discussion, okay, thank you. Anything else on that? All right,
So to continue, we did have the security meeting. A variety of subjects and topics were discussed. A reminder, and if you could bring this up again at department head meetings, to make sure that doors are closed at the end of the day. That was a concern. And in the morning, before the building opens, employees come in, if they can, keep the public, separated until the building actually opens at 8:30. Now there was some discussion about some of the appointments that happened with probation prior to 8:30. And so just as part of a talking point with department heads, make sure that building does stay secure as possible. Currently by making sure the doors are shut until the doors are unlocked. Commissioner Collins and I attended Michigan Works Southeast last week in Ann Arbor at the Washington facility. We did receive the audit as the consortium. The audit was an unqualified opinion. There were some conditions to be remedied. Michigan Works Southeast is working to ensure the correct fiscal leadership that's been ongoing, as well as implementing the correct policies and procedures. So over the last few years, they have had conditions to fulfill. The list has shortened as time has gone on. They are making strong progress. The audit did show that, and the auditors themselves, their comment was that it's moving forward as it should. Interviews have been taking place for a new fiscal manager, and the final interviews happened in the past week with the Workforce Development Board Chair and the Consortium Chair interviewing, and I'm sure that an offer has been made. We'll find out soon if the candidate accepts the offer, and that is for a fiscal manager. The fiscal manager that had been there has left due to family reasons, and as of mid-December is no longer with Michigan Works Southeast, other than as a short-timer for the interim until the new fiscal manager can be put in place. And that'll happen, I anticipate, real soon. At City Council meeting, the City Manager asked that we announce that bond bids will be accepted. Well, let me move forward here. Bond bids for sanitary sewers, banking services, investment firms are being placed, and they are on the city's website. Contact the city for details and the process for submitting a bid. The parks did have a special meeting regarding the DNR grant. There is a 2-year time frame to complete the project. The clock starts when the document is signed. They need to find what they call a prime professional, which will be the project manager. They're speaking with Todd Daly, who will handle all aspects of the project. He is an architect engineer that is familiar with the DNR type projects, and he is said to potentially be able to do a good job with this. And he will be the hands-on, keeping track of the project. The day-to-day will be still Mike Wertz. However, the project itself will be spearheaded by Todd Daly.
Commissioner, wasn't he the architect engineer that Mr. Caswell worked with in putting together the numbers for that grant?
I don't think so. I think that Bruce did almost all of those.
I know he
may have contacted Todd a little bit. I think it's more after, more into the process rather than at the front end, to try and have some continuity and moving forward. I think that Bruce did the setup with Todd, and now the Parks Commissioner or Parks trustees need to move forward with fulfilling that with Todd Daly. That's my understanding. Now, Todd Daly has worked for the county before, in different projects. Most notably, when we were trying to determine in the old probate office whether the wall could be moved or not. I did speak with Todd Daly. He brought drawings and showed what we could and couldn't do and what might need to do in order to move that wall. So Todd Daly is familiar with Hillsdale County. The permitting process with Eagle can begin immediately. Essentially, 2025 is going to be preparation for the project and doing all the setup, as I said, with Mr. Daly. And then the actual work is likely to be 2026 in order to meet that 2-year timeline. So while we thought, and I thought, it was a 2025 project, it is preparation 2025 for 2026. As far as the road commission, the manager's report showed that the township agreements are being submitted. That will happen. Most have been submitted. Some are still hanging out there. I had an email with Nick Wheeler just yesterday. An update of the GIS images are now on the GIS system.
The 2025?
The new pictures.
Okay.
Yes.
I was on there, no, I was on there today. I guess I didn't double check to see what area limits loaded.
Yeah, so make sure that you do a refresh of your browser in order to get the actual current updated images. If you don't, you probably get the old images. I've experienced both, but I was able to confirm the new images are up.
And they are.
Yes.
I can tell by where the goat pens are at.
Yes. So the Materials Management Planning Committee will meet on Thursday in the county office building conference room from 7 to 8:30. I've contacted all of the members that we have appointed, and they have indicated that they will be in attendance. The public is invited to attend. We've got a public notice out. City Clerk, I tried to find out, look and see where those public notices are. I can't find them.
Public notices are on there's a public notice section of the website.
Okay.
Separate from the diligent and the commissioner's regular meetings.
Okay.
And then the official posting is at the courthouse where all the official postings are. And then just this morning I did bring some here to post in this building.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to ask.
So in that header, it's home, calendar, public notices.
Okay. Thank you. And finally, the EDP, which is our Economic Development Partnership, is seeking local entrepreneurs. The Lean Rocket Local Fellows Program will help remove common barriers for local entrepreneurs by providing resources, training, and access. If you are a local entrepreneur and you are interested in participating in the workshops, the classes begin the week of March 10th, 2025. The cost is free to attend, and you have potential funding that those entrepreneur businesses can receive. Just some of the courses that will be offered are personal finance, small business lending, and others that are integral in small businesses. So if you are interested, please contact our EDP, Annette Sands, at 517-437-3200 to learn more about and enroll. And Chairman, that does complete my report. Thank you. If there's any questions?
Questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner, is it possible then that you could send out to all the other commissioners the complete report from Nathan on the 25 Care Drive building?
Yes, the other information that was sent with this drawing was the employee count for district court. And that is the only other information that was sent with this, and I will do that. What information are you looking for?
When he looked at the courthouse, I thought there was more detailed written write-up on that. And we spent another $10,000 and all we get is this drawing and an employee account.
Well, the drawing is pretty complete.
I thought the drawing that we purchased previously was for the construction of a new building.
It looked at multiple different options.
So we've had 3 drawings, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 drawings from Nathan Hall.
3 options on the existing.
Yeah, three options on the existing courthouse, one on the MDHHS building, and one on 25 Care Drive. So what information is it you'd like to send?
When we had the report on the courthouse, there was more than drawings, there was a written report on that.
Yes, and that was employee count for each of the aspects, department heads and courts and so on. This one is only district court.
He also included his projected cost on that.
I'll look. The only projected cost I've heard has been conversation that was estimate in what Nathan has experienced with other projects, you know, and the numbers were low to high. So I'm not certain that you're correct that we had budget numbers. However, I will dig into it and send the complete package. Would you like the packages from the main courthouse?
No, I still have those. It's just the, again, this is the first time I've seen anything on that 10,000 that we expended.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Kevin,
Had my first,
Could I ask for 5?
5? Okay,
just get started.
we'll make it 11. We'll make it 11:10, but I got a feed coming at 1, so we gotta stay on task.
Got it.
Because it's gotta be unloaded with pallets.
Somebody's got to do it. Whoa.
Mine will be very quick.
Okay.
Did you say that closed session was after management personnel, right? Is that-
No, we put it after his discussion.
Yeah, it'll be in,
Commissioner Benson's.
yeah, it'll be after Brad updates us on his discussion item.
Business fund.
Doug, did anybody do those
I'm thinking about
imagery?
going to school to be an AES.
So here,
Just put me an application and I'll be
we
right
got 24, 6-inch imagery.
Talked
There's
about
also
updating the
24
master
3-inch
plan
imagery.
at our next meeting, or just
Okay.
I don't know.
talk about it.
I don't think we at the county level paid for the 3-inch imagery, did we?
The planning commission.
Oh,
I don't remember.
you can report.
Bonus. Don't know.
So,
What exactly do
If you want to take lead on that, you're more than welcome to.
So we have we do have our representative and Senator Bellino, who is here today. And I'd like to welcome Senator to our Hillsdale County Commissioners meeting.
I found the newest building in the city, I knew you'd be here. He's a politician. I'm happy to be here. I've got 3 counties and all of them are run real well financially. Some have some political things going on, but that's life. But life happens. I grew up in Monroe, born and raised. In 2002, our county commissioners were 8-1 Democrat. Now we're 9-0 Republican, and running things a little tighter than we have in the past. I know that for a fact that your job is a lot harder than my job. Because no one ever calls me when the garbage is not picked up, or something's not, the water's not flowing right, or things are going bad. So I appreciate all the work you guys do. I really do. So I just wanted to stop by and sit and watch what you're doing here.
So it's interesting that you mentioned garbage, because that is one of my committees now that I have having great distress with, as a matter of fact, and can use all the help the senator can provide in some of the challenges that I'm facing with Materials Management Planning Committee. Some of those challenges are, quite frankly, in fitting all the required spots, you know, that Eagle has defined that we need. And those spots in our small Hillsdale County, with the resources we have and the services we don't have, and the resources we don't have, this project is a nightmare. And I can tell you that in good faith, because I've said that to Eagle as well, that what they've created might look good in paper, but the reality of it, it's a disaster. And they have created by statute, the legislature has created a monster for 83 counties that only a handful, in my mind, are able to navigate. Oakland County being one, Washtenaw County probably number 2. I would say Monroe County is one, more capable, and then Saginaw and Ingham County and Kent County are probably the list of those that are prepared to do the request that Eagle has brought to all of the counties. That certainly the small rural communities and counties don't have in place any process that the Eagle is demanding of us. And so I had my first meeting. I'm the county appointed commissioner with our Hillsdale County Materials Management. And I can tell you that my first meeting will be on this Thursday night with 8 others that we've appointed, because we don't have 9, 10, and 11. And some of the 8 also as well are multifunctional, that could be LRS can do hauling, they can do transfer, they can do waste. You know, there's a variety of things that they can do. I'm not hearing from Eagle that I have sent emails and phone calls with. My initial response was, Commissioner Ingalls, you're going to have plenty of forgiveness. However, I received an email a week ago that says, Commissioner Ingalls, you're not towing the line. And so we need help in navigating this process. We need help accomplishing the timelines. We need help financially. It's something that, in fact, requires a full-time person to do this project. And I'm not a materials management person.
So let me stop you right there.
Yes.
What Eagle is doing, you're right, 6 or 7 counties have stepped up and said, we can do this, we got this. And they're not your county. We had a little change in the electric last November. And so now people on my side of the aisle control the budget of Eagle. And we're hoping this year they listen more than they did last year. Because last year nobody would listen to us because they didn't care. We weren't going to affect their budget. We weren't going to affect their boss or anything else. They had control of everything. This year we're hoping they come to the table and listen to us a little bit, like they did in the past during split government. I'm hoping that happens, because we've heard from many counties that they're going to not make these thresholds, and you're going to do what to us?
They have, the timeline is quite an elaborate chart that shows those thresholds. And if this, fine, go to the next one. If not, Eagle will write your plan. Ultimately, in fact, every jurisdiction in Hillsdale County that I've spoken to, any facility operator that I've spoken to, any other council member or township representative that I've spoken with, does not want Eagle to write our plan. We want to write our plan. However, we need help in knowing those ins and outs of how to write a plan that will ultimately be end result accepted, because we can spin our wheels and write the plan and have it not be accepted, and we just spent 18 months, we just spent 6 months, we just spent whatever time, and I have spent
a year.
Who knows? Since last March, the learning curve from 0 to what I know now is substantial in the amount that I've gained and learned. However, the process by which it happens, as I learn more, I find out that that's stacked more and more against us. And that this whole structure is designed for failure.
Yeah.
They have created a miserable plan for me and us.
Now remember, they don't think it's failure. Because they know Washington's going to be fine. So don't call it failure to them in the face.
Well,
I can do it, but you really can't. Let you and I talk afterward.
Okay.
And
So
I'll set up a meeting with Eagle the next couple weeks. I'm meeting not this week and Mission next week for problems I have in my area. And I'll set one with Eagle too.
Okay, I thank you. And my little 10 minutes or 5 minutes here has accomplished, the message. And I wanted to do that. So I appreciate you and your help, and thank you so much.
And anybody else, if you don't have my number, this guy's got my number. I'll give you my number. Call me whenever you want.
I got your number too, Joe.
Back, I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you so much, Senator, for being here.
Thank you, Chairman, for letting me go through the difficulties that are real world,
Yep.
for us.
Understand.
For us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Kevin, your report, sir.
On Wednesday, the 22nd, we had a planning commission meeting, and they elected new officers, and we set the meeting schedule for the next year. And we also talked about updating the master plan, and Amrata, I believe, is going to send out a copy of the master plan to everybody, because our next meeting's in March, and give people a chance to go over it and highlight what areas they feel need changed. And we'll bring it to the March meeting and try to get that changed and done. And then the Board of Health meeting, we elected new officers, of course, and approved the meeting schedule. And they're looking at the environmental health code to be approved. So, a new one, so it's gonna be quite intense there on that part. And then Michigan Works, which Doug already said something about the meeting. I had a Zoom meeting that was just info for new commissioners and the other part of them. There was like maybe 5 of us on this thing. And
Workforce Development Board. The Workforce Development.
I don't know if that's what it was, but there was other people there that weren't with the consortium.
Yes.
So, and he really never said what they were, or who they were from, but there were like 5 of us there. And that was for about 45 minutes. That's all I have.
Any questions for Kevin?
Commissioner, I just want to add a little bit more on the health department as well. Tim Stoll from Branch County was elected the chairperson of the health department for this year, and I was elected as the vice chair. As Commissioner Collins said, there was some discussion that we may need to update, or the health department board may look at revising that environmental health code. A reminder there, if the health department looks at it, for that to be in effect, every one of the 3 county board of commissioners then that we represent would have to adopt that environmental health code as it was changed. This on the screen there is the Branch Hillsdale St. Joseph Health Department website. I thank IT Director Holcomb for bringing this computer up. I wanted to make sure everybody knew where to find this, so if you wanted some time to review it yourself and highlight some things. And it just, we had, after our Board of Health meeting on Thursday, we had a training led by the health officer, and I just happened to click on that environmental health code and something, I scrolled down through and it's like, wait a minute, we need to change something because there's something in there dealing with bodies of dead animals and it doesn't allow for composting. So just, one of those things that the environmental health code hasn't been updated in a long time. But if you scroll to the bottom, the Board of Health resources, and there you can find the Michigan Public Guide to Health and Governing Ethics. You can find the intergovernmental agreement, the bylaws, and then down here is the environmental health code. And that opens up, and again, that's in effect for the 3 counties, and last updated as of January 1st, 1998. Again, we talked about that a little bit at the meeting. It may be a year or so before we would see anything back here at the Board of Commissioners for approval on that, but just something to be thinking of, cognitive of, as you go about things, if you want to look at some things. One other thing that I wanted to share as an update, and the health department in this last year invested some money in some new computer technology. That new computer technology, now we have a public-facing system where residents of the 3 counties can go and apply for different permits and licenses that they have to have from the health department. You can either do that so if you scroll down here, well and septic or food licensing, I'm just going to click on this food licensing. And that comes out here. You can find those applications there, or you can find the new online portal. If you see that right there, we're just going to click on that. Opens up. Agree. Okay. Sorry, Commissioner Ingles, the font is a little small there. Food inspection results. You can actually go and you can see, if there's where the health department's been inspecting licensed food establishments, and you can see those inspection results that they've had from the 3 county area right out there online. You can also do that food service application forms are out there online, as well as the online well permit and an online septic permit. So contractors, property owners don't have to go to the health department in person to complete those applications. They can do all of that online, and they can submit that payment online as well. So again, one of those enhancements in technology that we've approved at the health department that is a service and a benefit to our residents and our constituents as well.
And I don't know if you said it, but it's bhsj.org.
Correct. Yep.
And it's very easy to get to. It's a pretty easy page to navigate. So, all right.
So, and again, I want to thank the IT director for quickly bringing that computer up so we could look at that. So, and you guys could all see that as well. So,
as long as you thank an IT director, he sent me a text that all your iPads and your phones, if they are Apple devices, need to be updated today to the 18.3 because it is there's a threat that will help prevent any damage to the devices. So, all right. Brad, you're up next.
Alrighty, we'll start out with the medical examiner agreement discussion that is on your agenda. Included in your packet were 3 separate documents. Just some background on this. This is a discussion that's been going on for at least 3 years now. Back when Dr. Kaysen was our medical examiner, he had brought the idea, and we had a meeting up at the Jackson County Administrative Building, Administrator's Office. We had the Lenawee County Administrator, the Jackson County Administrator, I think it was actually the Deputy Administrator from Jackson County, like Dr. Kaysen and Dr. Mano, the Jackson County Medical Examiner, proposing the idea that we develop a regional office of the medical examiner. There's a similar in several other areas of the state. The closest one to us is out of Western Michigan School of Medicine. I believe that that's what Branch County uses for their medical examiner services. Basically what was expressed by both doctors was that the state is pushing the idea of regionalization, and that if we go into it voluntarily and create a regional group, that would then place us in a much better position and look better to the state rather than being told that we would need to go into a regional group. There's also a number of advantages, as we discovered several years ago when we quit doing Lucas County for autopsies, that we contracted with Lenawee County, and much less expensive for us to go that route. What happened, Commissioner Collins, since you weren't on board, when Bixby Hospital over in Adrian closed, when they built the new Hickman, somehow they forgot to include Morgan there. And so Lenawee County then had to contract with Jackson County because they had large enough morgue facilities, and because we were already contracting with Lenawee County, that also became the morgue for Hillsdale County. And so that's how we got to that point. Then our medical examiner unexpectedly died, and so Hillsdale County then contracted with Jackson County, and now Dr. Mano is the ME for all 3 counties. And we have an agreement with Lenawee County, not with Jackson County, and then Jackson County, they then rent the space and provide some of the other things that go along. The idea behind this is that this would create a cost sharing amongst the 3 counties. It would help us with the medical examiner investigators, because right now we have none of those individuals in Hillsdale County. And just candidly, I would say probably that's because we, of the 3 counties, pay the lowest. And so therefore, that number has dwindled. We had 3 or 4 at one point, and dwindled down to 1 for about a year, and now we have none. So anytime that we have an out-of-hospital death, we have to have a medical examiner investigator come from Lenawee County. This agreement would also then, the MEIs would work in all 3 counties, so the Jackson MEI, because it would create a uniform pay across the board for all of them, and a uniform as far as the terms under which they work. And so therefore, if it was a death in the northern part of the county, you might possibly get someone out of Jackson County. If it was a death in the eastern part of the county, very likely Lenawee, and then again, hopefully we will be able to recruit some of these individuals. It is not inexpensive. Nothing ever seems to be. We see that whenever we renew our agreement with the health department and the per capita contribution. We looked at several different methods of how to break it down. Population was one of the things. Lenawee County is about double the population of us, and Jackson's about double the population of Lenawee. Basically, at the end of the day, what we came up with is the amount of cases, and that was estimated at 15% of the cases would be for Hillsdale County, and so therefore 15% of the costs would be allocated to Hillsdale County. Derek felt that last year the number was closer to 12 or 13%, and so we were going to try and get a handle on a little bit more historical data and look at that. But I think just having worked with Dr. Mayo over with Sarah from Lenawee County, we probably will find out that 15% is probably pretty doggone close. So Commissioner Wiley has worked very closely with this along with myself. We traveled over to Lenawee County. We would be happy to try and answer any questions or take back any of your concerns with the documents that we presented to you.
So Brent had reached out that he had, after we talked briefly about this, I think 2 weeks ago, and the budget committee, or the budget chair at least, talked to Derek, and they wanted to see some of the numbers in the latest agreement proposal updated to 24 numbers, because Dr. Mano had used 23 numbers. Sarah has...
There was some columns in there that included 24, but they were estimated figures. They weren't final actual figures. So
Right. So I stand corrected, but regardless, Dr. Mano is going to try and massage that so that the actual 24 numbers are in the whole proposal. So we're waiting back for that. But Doug, you had a comment?
Just that there are some question marks that I see here for office equipment, supplies, intangible special services costs. Those numbers are not included in our potential pay.
I don't believe that they had good numbers on those yet.
So what Dr. Mano sent out, which is what's in your packet, is being looked at by both the commission, Board of Commissioners from all three counties. So it's definitely not a process that's going to, be short, because everyone's got different concerns and questions.
I guess one of the other, obviously the cost is a concern, because currently our current budget, we've got the approved budget of $135,710 for medical examiner fees. And I think the one projection that they had there had cost on population at $206,000 for the county. That still didn't include some of those other tangible costs. So even that cost is a $70,000 increase. Commissioner Benzine, you mentioned Branch County. You think they use Western Michigan University.
I do.
Okay. Branch County's 25 budget for their medical examiner fees using Western Michigan University are $82,500. And their population is almost exactly the same as Hillsdale County. Have we looked at Western Michigan University?
We have.
And?
I guess all I'm willing to say at this time is we did not get scathing reviews from the counties that are part of that. Because at the time, and I've probably got it at home in a stack of paper, but the counties that we reached out to had, I'll just say, less than favorable comments from the ones that I reached out to.
One of the services that's really essential to the MD's office is getting those death certificates. And so in many cases, families will want to begin settling estates, paying final expenses, things like that. They need those death certificates. And so getting those services is challenging. The other comment that I've heard is from law enforcement in regards to getting reports that it has been challenging and very time consuming.
That was one of the negative comments that I got back at that time as well.
Well, but I look at, okay, we're at 135, and, the cheapest proposal that we have is we're going up $70,000. And that wasn't the most expensive, and that still maybe doesn't include all of the expenses. The other concern that I had is clarification on employment. And I noticed it indicated some of those individuals there were employed separately by the different counties. And some of the, and by that, they're eligible for the retirement benefits in those counties, which is potentially an added cost that I'm not sure we should be looking at absorbing a portion of, other than through the contractual fee that we've been doing.
So one of the challenges of putting this together are those pieces, because we are not creating a new legal entity similar to community mental health or our public health department. We are basically creating an operating agreement between the three counties. And so because of some of those employees are legacy employees, Sarah with Lenawee, Dr. Mano is a very long-term employee of Jackson County. And so to try and combine all of those needs from the three counties together, that is one of the issues that's been facing. How do we make that look? So you're spot on that there are costs associated with them, but the solution otherwise would be to create a new legal entity, and that they would all be employees newly starting with those. And I would suspect that some of the players probably are not going to want to do that. It's going to make it much more difficult to try and get to where we're trying to get.
You know, and again, talking about cost, we just had a, long conversation about RFPs. Maybe it's time we go back and look at Western Michigan again. I don't know when, I've never heard anything about us looking at Western Michigan University for those
prior
services.
to your time on the board.
But, okay, if we can pay them, more in line with what we budgeted, and maybe get some of that service in a more timely manner than what maybe somebody else had at the time, maybe that's more cost efficient for the residents than a $200,000 joint effort with Jackson and Lenawee counties.
I mean, I'm not opposed to reaching out to them, but I guess I'll just leave it at that. I'm not opposed to reaching out to them, but, I think that as far as a working relationship with Jackson and Lenawee, we're probably further ahead. But,
understand,
and money is money. However, Jackson County, at least in one of those meetings that we've sat in on, was very adamant that they own that morgue building, okay? And so some of the costs built into this proposal is costs because we don't have to own a building, okay? And morgues aren't cheap to build. And facilities to do autopsies, thank you, aren't cheap to construct. I mean, it's not just a morgue, it's the entire package up there. And there's even been talk of expanding that facility. And I get where you're at.
I'm just looking at the numbers.
Yeah.
Branch County, so our expense in 2023 was $120,000. Branch County's was $85,385. Okay. 2024, our budgeted expense was $136,093. Branch County was $82,435.90. And our populations are,
right.
I mean, I think they're 1,500 to 1,000 population lower than Hillsdale County.
I mean, I'm not opposed to reaching out to Western Michigan and perhaps even inviting them down here to give us a presentation, okay? However, numbers are numbers, but you've also, just like buying a piece of farm machinery, you've got to think about service after the sale.
Yep, I understand.
And one of the comments that you've heard from both Brad and I is we have heard some comments from some of those participating counties about service after the sale. It basically is what I'm talking about, as far as timeliness of reports, etc. So, I mean, go ahead, Doug.
A couple questions. One, we have a current agreement, is that correct? Is that still in place?
Yeah.
And that the agreement is with Lenawee County and Hillsdale County?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. How does Jackson fit in? Because that's where the morgue is.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but Lenawee and Jackson have an agreement which kind of connects that route.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we also then have an agreement with Dr. Mano. After Dr. Kaysen died, then we appointed him Hillsdale medical examiner.
Yes.
And we have an agreement with him, which also includes the pathology assistants and.
Right, so there's the connection.
Right.
Yeah. And
So-
that agreement with Dr. Mano was done by resolution, because statutorily, we have to have an ME.
Yes, so historically, you mentioned you've inquired with Western Michigan. Didn't we at Hillsdale County at one time work with Toledo?
Lucas County, yeah.
Lucas County.
Lucas County.
So is that another option to look at, or
We
no?
will not go back there. That,
Because,
well, it became a disaster. I mean, for instance, we were sending deputies down there to obtain reports for cases that were criminal in nature. And sometimes, so now we're paying a deputy to go all the way down there to pick up a report. And what really drove us over the top as far as creating the agreement between Hillsdale and Lenawee was deputy went down there and he was told that he would not be given the report without a court order. And so he drove back to Hillsdale without the proper documentation that both the sheriff's department and the prosecutor needed. And so, no, I'm not interested in going back to Lucas County. Now, I mean, that's just the history on that, Doug. And
which is before our time.
correct. And their cost for autopsies, at the initial time that we made this agreement with Lenawee, the cost that we were paying with Lucas County was almost double of what we agreed to do with Dr. Kaysen and Lenawee County. So that was, there was a lot of moving pieces, but those are the reasons that brought us all together.
Well, as Commissioner Leininger has described, was my concern as well, is the budget. It was not put in the budget for, 2025, and so we have to overcome that in some fashion. The initial date on the letter is June of '24, and I understand it's been a work in progress to get it to this point. However, it was not included in our budget for 2025. So we need to find a way to, create that.
Understood.
And I think that we will be considerably into the year or possibly even looking at 2026. The other counties are going to face similar issues with budgetary constraints. And so I don't know that we need to, look at 2025 so much as we need to going forward as we start looking at the 2026 budget, start having that consideration.
Thank you.
And I have no problem with looking at, other places to obtain these services. However, they're not a big pool. And the problem is that we are pretty small. And so if we look to Wayne County, we get lost in the sauce. They do probably more in a week than we do in a year. So,
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be other meetings, and Brad and I will continue to update you, but I agree with him. As far as any hard, fast agreement of tying the three counties together, it'll probably be very much towards the end of the year. I know one of the correspondence that Brad and I have been copied on, Lenawee has already sent some of this to their legal for review. And I don't think that review is done, at least last communication I saw with Lenawee. So, and we're kind of relying on Lenawee to some extent. There's no sense in us sending it to legal if Lenawee's got, let them pay the legal expense. And then we'll review
So
back.
it's a discussion item, you've heard some of the.
Absolutely.
And that's, we wanted to get it in front of you, we wanted you to have a chance to see the information.
Yep.
We've reached the point now where this has gone beyond this discussion point, and, Lenawee and Jackson, whether, we're part of this or not, we actually did have some discussions, maybe 2 years ago, about bringing Livingston County into this agreement as well, trying to get some more players involved. And Livingston has kind of bounced around for their medical examiner services, and they basically said, they weren't interested in being part of this regionalization effort. So, okay.
All right. Please continue.
All right. Very good. I will continue on. Michigan Townships Association has released an edition of their authorities and responsibilities of Michigan Townships, commonly called the Red Book. Some of you may have seen notation about that in their publication. We as commissioners are often asked questions regarding the operations of township government. I plan on purchasing a new copy for my own use. The EPA membership price is $57 per copy, and I thought I would bring it to all of you if you were interested in purchasing a copy of it as well. We would have the county then buy that collectively. We would then reimburse that, whatever the 57 plus whatever shipping cost. But we save if we were to buy them, get 3 or 4 or 5 copies of them together. It would help consolidate that shipping cost, and then we would just reimburse that back. So if you were interested in that, be delighted to hear so. So I know that my copy, I have the last copy, and they were several years old, much like our Guide to County Government from MAC. They don't get those published on a real regular basis, so consequently having the updated one would be a nice thing to do. The 911 board met on the 15th. That was a very short meeting. They will have mobile CAD training on the new CAD system on March 4th, 5th, and 6th. And the live date is still at this time, April the 14th. Commissioner Ingalls mentioned that under his report that we met with Judges Stiverson and Lisney, along with the District Court Administrator Laura Ray on the 16th in regards to that discussion of moving the offices. Some of the discussion, just to elaborate a little bit what Commissioner Ingalls shared with you, is what access we would have to the second floor of that building after April of next year, and the answer is none. We have to be vacated out of that space up there. So it's evidently their plan to start gutting that, and we will not have any access whatsoever to that second floor after next April. The Public Safety Radio project did kick off on the 21st. We discussed about the 45 days from the date of that meeting for our first payment with them. And a company by the name of Pyramid Systems, they will be the contractor for the 3 towers that we'll be putting up. And Telrad is the equipment contractor. Obviously there'll be Motorola radios, but there's a lot of other components, and so Telrad will be the equipment supplier of the non-Motorola specific products. Emergency Management Director Jason Loudermilk. Jason has accepted the position that we discussed at our last meeting, and his first day on the job will be February the 1st. Commissioner Weil and I will be meeting with him on January the 30th and go through that employee checklist, get him around, get all his various onboarding things taken care of, and then we will hand him off about noon to Mr. Whitaker, who will then show him the space out at 911 and kind of give him, and Thomas has agreed that he will be his guide, because this is a new thing for Jason, and so he is willing to help him along with getting at that. The jail census is running right around 75 inmates. Sheriff Hodshire did note at our department heads meeting that 75 to 80% of the inmates currently in the jail are on some form of prescription medication. We do have Lifeways at the jail for 5 days a week. That is part of our mental health dollars that we spend, and that is helping. We also have a jail nurse out there at the jail as well. Last item I have for you is the Great Lakes Homeland Security Conference is scheduled for May the 6th to 8th in Grand Rapids. Registration opens on the 19th. I did attend that last year as a public safety chair, and I would like to request from this board that again I be allowed to use my conference money to attend that conference on behalf of the county.
I would move for approval.
I would support. Second.
All in favor, excuse me. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Could you, just so I have it, what is the motion, please? Approving,
Approve Commissioner Benzing to use his
Conference allocation
to attend the
Great Lakes Homeland Security Conference in Grand Rapids.
okay, thank you.
And I will get with you, Mr. Clerk, when those registrations open up, so we can get that registration done as we did previously.
And the ayes have it, 5-0.
Got that, thank you.
And that concludes my report, other than I will have a motion after that, so I'd be happy to answer your questions now.
No, just a note, you said our first payment to Motorola, that's actually our second payment.
Yeah,
to
you are
Motorola.
correct. It is our second payment, yes. Because we did, when we signed the contract, we did have a payment we had made for them. So thank you for the correction.
4 to 5 days after we signed the contract, we had a payment.
Yeah.
Doug?
As well as the Homeland Security Conference, the North American Act of the Salem Conference is happening. It's the 8th annual North American Act of the Salem Conference to be held in Troy, and the dates for that are June 4th through 6th. I did attend that last year, and I provide that information if there's other commissioners that would be interested in attending. I do not anticipate I'll attend this year. It's still pretty fresh and very impactful. And I do stay up with the correspondence that comes from that group. But I did want to announce that June 4 to 6 will be the next North American Act of the Assailants Conference.
And that is an excellent, I've attended that several times myself. It is an excellent conference. Unfortunately, it is the week of NASCAR, and so I will be out of the store, working up at MIS on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so I cannot be away for the balance of the week.
So it's hosted by Oakland County Tactical Consortium and Michigan State Police. I can tell you the seminars were overwhelming as you hear the incidents that do happen both nationally, regionally, and in our state. We had a big presentation last year of the event they happened at Michigan State University, also others, and it's highly recommended to attend.
Okay. Anything else for Brad? All right.
All right. And with that said, I would move that we go into closed session to discuss a matter of attorney-client privilege regarding an existing contract between the county and a vendor.
I'll second.
I would request we allow Senator Bellino to stay, if he so desires.
I'm fine with that.
If you want to stay around, okay.
Should we have
We
Lynn
need a
stay
roll
too?
call. Pardon me?
Should we have Lynn stay too or not?
I don't know. No.
I think that
That's a conflict.
RU has her own
Okay,
legal
that'd be a
counsel on this
conflict, yeah.
issue, and so
She can come back after the
Yep.
closed session because there will be presumably a motion afterwards. So, roll call, please.
Commissioner Benzing,
yes.
Commissioner Leininger,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingles,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley.
Yes. All right, if everyone except for the senator would step out, we'll good to go. All right, you may proceed, Doug.
Okay, I move to have Mr. Thompson draft a 90-day notice to terminate the agreement between Hudson Ambulance Service and Hillsdale County.
I will support that.
Moved and supported. We've already had our discussion, I believe, but I'll entertain any last comments on it. All right, and we will do a roll call. We have not had a 4-1 vote today, so, no.
We're about to. Commissioner Leininger,
No.
Commissioner Ingalls,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Benzing.
Yes.
4-1, thank you. Yes, sir.
I would move to approve the minutes of the closed session as read prior to exiting closed session.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Did you have anything else, Brad?
Unless Lynn had anything she wanted to add.
Is there anything you need from me?
No.
I'm happy to provide whatever you'd like.
So, and
Call-
you have been in consultation with your council as well.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. All right. Did you have anything further?
That concludes everything that I have for you, and thank you.
All right. I do not have any action items. I have a few comments I'll share from the department head meeting. It was talked about the concrete blocks for anybody that hasn't seen them, as far as so that we can't have a vehicle drive into our east entrance there. There was also some discussion about blocks around the generator, and I believe those, I think Randy chirped up that those are in place.
Those are coming, yes.
Okay.
They're there, aren't they? I think
Are we doing, Commissioner, are we doing block or are we gonna bury hope?
Ultimately, we don't know where we're gonna end up. Initially, we're doing blocks.
they're pretty easy to get, and then we can do.
Couple reasons. One, we don't know the final location. And, two, once you start pounding into pavement, sometimes you don't know what you're gonna run into. And so the block solution is the first solution.
Okay.
And I don't know that they've been installed yet at the running HVAC. I looked, I didn't see them yet.
The HVAC of the generator, I think the discussion was.
Yeah, the discussion was more around the generator.
Yeah, which is for Abe selections.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
You're paying for the blocks, right?
Do you really want me? No.
I'm pretty sure Randy
Yes,
said
I
those
paid
were in
for it.
In
place.
place, okay.
Because,
There's some question about, did they block off all four sides?
Right.
And I believe that the one that faces on the south side, there is nothing on the south side.
right, Randy was gonna take a look at that as far as accessibility. I think that was the bigger issue is, I know he said there was one on, I think there was one on two sides, and then there's a tree close enough on the other side that it should be protected.
Okay.
So,
It's not.
it's not?
No.
Okay. Follow up on that with facilities, if you would, please.
Thank you.
Let's see, I already mentioned, and Brent's gonna follow up on the personnel handbook as far as work comp. Laura Ray is moving over to front of the court. She has accepted the position over there as the director. She will be moving over there on the 10th of February. And Rachel.
Alexander.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. All I did was abbreviate your last name, I was drunk. She'll be moving from her, she's getting some things closed down with her private practice, plus with some cases she was already involved with, because she was under contract for the county to handle probate cases, which we just signed, did that contract at the end of the year, so now we're an attorney short. But she'll be moving into Laura Ray's previous position at district court on the 1st of March. And Melissa Bragg will be helping in the interim in district court to try and keep all those activities rolling. So a lot of changes between district court and front of the court, because there's two other people, and I didn't write that down, but there's two other people that are gonna kind of shift, upward. Because as I reported previously, Shayla will be retiring on February 18th. And she's been filling not only her position, which I believe her sister is gonna take her old position, Shelley. And then,
There's some backfilling there, so right, there'll be another position that's going to be
there will
open.
be one that'll be open, but it will not be the director's position that's been open since George left over a year ago. So, anyways, that's kind of the highlights of something I wanted to share from the department head meeting. Lifeways, I'll be at the conference, the annual winter conference in Kalamazoo, the first part of February there, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I mentioned earlier that, and we have Spark on the agenda for the, what is it, the first meeting, I think? I'm pretty sure it's the first meeting, to give us another kind of update on, from their photo class. If you recall, last March, they were here with their pictures of the construction there on the courthouse and the renovations. So, and...
First meeting, yeah.
Yep, okay. DHHS meeting was last week, and the one thing I wanted to share was that the total number of foster care cases is down by 27 from a year ago. And these are December numbers, but still to be down 27. And then Child Protective Service cases were down by 5 from the previous year as well. And I can remember, so the total number of cases for foster care, December of 24 is 79. I can remember that number being as high as 150 or 60. So things are starting, and I kind of think some of those numbers were, my personal feeling, it was COVID and post-COVID, because people were cooped up and there was some abuse and neglect cases that caused for removals and such. So at least we're headed back in the right direction, because being up there in the 150 number of foster care was very alarming, but Hillsdale wasn't alone, because I had asked the director to look at other counties, and other counties were seeing the same numbers, or equivalents thereof. And the last thing I have for you is Naomi texted me, and you need, of course this doesn't apply to Kevin since you're new on board, but the rest of us need to stop down and see Naomi and pick up our W-2s.
She got the W-2s for us, okay.
So that's all I have at this point in time, unless there's a question or a comment. And then we'll circle back to public comment. Any public comment? Stephanie, please step to the podium.
So with the bonding, I have to identify an account and the routing number. And the only way I have to send those are email. We no longer have a fax. So the bond attorney called me and it said I shouldn't be probably doing it that way. So I'm kind of pushing for some type of secure email that we can use in the county. I deal with account all the time. And that's cyber risk, so.
The printer downstairs is now a multi-function device that can't fax,
I don't know about that.
It's just, we don't have fax lines anymore.
but even those voice, I don't have and again, I don't know if that computer or the printer copier downstairs would also function as a fax.
I know there was some discussion about that with IT.
I know it was taken off of our printer.
Probably provide us
I don't know
with
about
info, but-
others, but We probably should come into the 21st century with that.
I mean, you're welcome to come use my fax machine if you want to. My printer also faxes, but.
Have you had that discussion with Dave?
No, this happened yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
And I just wanted to bring it to your attention that
And-
it should be something to consider.
And I don't know, commissioners, with, I know we approved switching to Office 365. Some of that is better security. I do know that, you know.
There was one alternative, which I don't have yet, something about some kind of email that you can send, and they can go and get the item. That's supposed to be done for me this week, but secure email, I think, is probably the best way to go. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else want to comment? Additional business, Doug?
I don't have any today, thank you.
Brad?
I just wanted to comment to Senator Galena, thank you very much for being here with us today. You do
We need
appreciate
to
it.
thank the Dems for canceling today.
Perfect. But to that, and it's really Commissioner Wiley's district, it was brought to our attention in the last week that evidently that there was between Indiana and Michigan a question raised about resurveying that 1800s border, and that the legislature, Michigan legislature, does have a state boundary commission that was supposed to receive a report by the end of this year. So we would greatly appreciate you encouraging whomever is involved in that
We'll check into that.
figure out
We
where.
allocated a lot of money for that, so I'll check into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I really don't want to lose Montgomery. It's part of my district.
Amboy Township's thin enough as it is.
Yeah, this is true
Amboy Township
too.
does not border Indiana.
I know. It's actually Camden Township.
Yeah. All right. Additional business, Brent?
The ISD superintendents will be meeting on Monday at 10:30. I believe the educational position on the planning commission is open. If you look at the planning commission, that educational representative is supposed to be somebody suggested from the superintendents of the districts in the county. So I will try and work with our superintendent to make sure that that gets brought up and that we can get a educational representative onto that planning commission. And I think there is a township representative position open, and I am not sure when the next Hillsdale County chapter of the Michigan Townships Association is meeting.
Since Cinda's under the weather, she's probably driving forward.
Cinda is, if you,
The clerk
Cinda
can
Clerk
speak.
is resigning as
Okay, she is going to
her
be.
position as township clerk.
Abe can address that MTA meeting.
That got swept under the rug for quite a bit of 2024 because the clerks were so busy with everything that was going on. So it was up for the rotation. Next was Somerset, but I don't think that happened. That's a new clerk. And I told her to get a hold of Cinda, and then Cinda was out of commission. So I'll follow up with them. I'd like to see it start back up, but then when it starts back up,
It needs to be.
it should be attended, and it's.
Yeah, and I expressed this before, but I would ask them that MTA move their meetings to the end of the month rather than the first part of the month, because that is when all of the townships and villages and cities have their first meeting, and there is almost always a conflict for someone in that first 2 weeks of the month. So if they could possibly, move their meeting to the
The
end of
third
the
or
month.
fourth week would be much better. I
Yeah,
think.
pass that along.
Fourth week, yeah. Okay. Do you think it'd be beneficial for Kevin to go to that ISD?
Potentially, yeah. And I'll reach out and see if we can get him in there. It's at 10:30 on Monday, the 3rd.
Okay. Any additional business, Kevin?
There might be 2 township openings. I don't know, one guy just resigned
Okay.
as of last meeting, and I don't know if he was township or
So
what.
Sam Fry is the name I think you're thinking of, and he was the economic position.
Okay. He moved to a different county. I know
Right, yeah, that was Sam. All right, anything else?
That'll do it.
Okay. I know Personnel Management will have another reappointment in consent. I reached out to Marty and Ray, were both busy, we couldn't get it on today's agenda, but the Building and Electrical Inspectors Board of Appeals, Dave Burke and Al Clendenning are up for reappointment, and David sent the form to Ray so that they can, refill out the application, and we'll have that in consent hopefully next meeting. So Ray told me they may end up having 3 appeals in a year, and that's kind of the high side. So they don't meet very often, and both Dave and Al have agreed to continue doing it. So, and our pool is very limited on that sort of thing. So, and the state, unfortunately, has made things a little more complicated with getting inspectors altogether, because now they must pass an exam and take a course, if you will. And the exam, or the course, Marty told me, is about $1,000. To take the exam is $300. So you're not getting a lot of people interested in being inspectors based on the upfront cost. So, and I see Joe nodding his head.
The adults are back in control.
Not everywhere.
Not everywhere.
Not everywhere.
That one won't change.
All right. Anyways, that's kind of the update from Personnel Management on those items. So with that,
Set the eyes.
we're adjourned.
10:30.
Thank you all.
Sign away. I know you're in a hurry.